Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be talking about movies, having a nice chill time. We're going to go through some of my favorite movies. We're going to go through some of your favorite movies. We're just going to have a general chat about it. And then eventually I'm going to open it up to a Totsumachi and see if anybody wants to hop on. If nobody hop on, it'll just be a continuation to me and you guys talking about our favorite movies. Otherwise, we'll let other people talk about their favorites, their favorite of genres, why they watch movies, all of these things and more to discuss. We have much to do today. How are you guys doing? You all having a good morning? Hope you've all had a good start to the day. And thank you to all the gifted memberships before we even started the stream. And to Albin, who raided into the stream before we'd even gone live and left the one comment: my comfort movie is Fulgur Ovid streams. How dare Albin Yan? How dare you be so cute right when you disappear so I can't even shout at you. Thank you for raiding into my stream, Albin Yan. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I hope you get well rested, and I hope all the Takanadachi who are here have a good time. And yeah, continue watching all his VODs while he's gone so he gets more views and he feels bad. That way he'll come back faster. He'll be like, oh, they love me so much. There you go. But yeah, I thought we'd start with my top 10 movies and then we'd start going through genres. So yeah, that's the plan for today. I see a lot of people throwing out ideas already. Comfort movies are a good one. Okay, let me turn this music down. So my personal thing when it comes to movies is I think movies are a pretty perfect way to tell a story. Because you get a nice amount of time where you can get attached enough to a character to feel bad about whatever's going to happen to them or feel good when they succeed. See an entire character arc probably within a good hour. So when you get a movie that's like an hour and a half to 2 hours to... I mean, yeah, you've got like the Lord of the Rings extended editions that are like 3 to 4 hours, followed by movies like Love Exposure that go on for like 5 or 6 hours. So yeah, some of those are just basically short series. But I think a movie is like the perfect length to really wrap you in. And we're going to be talking about a lot of that, starting with my 10 top favorite movies. Number one has to go to Memories of Matsuko. Now, if you haven't heard of this one is a Japanese movie, which is full of emotion. I wanted to watch it on a watch along with everybody because it's just so dang good. We unfortunately were not allowed to because it's not easy to find. There is an official English release, but it is not easy to find other than just buying the actual home release. You cannot stream it online, which sucks because it's one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen. It starts with the story of a girl named Matsuko who is born as a child into a family where her dad doesn't really care about her, only cares about her younger sister who is very sickly. And she grows up with a lot of pain in her life. Despite being beloved by everyone outside of her family, all she ever wants to prove to herself is to father, to make father happy, to make him smile. And it leads into her becoming a very twisted and broken adult who is constantly trying to fill that void in her heart that she couldn't get from her father's love with other men. And it gets dark from there. Actually, the storyline actually begins, which is even more tragic, with her nephew being called. Her nephew, who never met her, gets called to clean out her house and finds it just absolutely covered in garbage. Everything is destroyed everywhere. It looks horrible. And he wonders how a person could sink so low and live in such a disgusting manner. And so you start to find out why she turned out this way, what happened to her, all the adventures she went on. And it's so damn good. It's so powerful. It has musical numbers, it has angst, it has drama, it goes over the top in some directions. Like, there's so many musical numbers in it. And despite the fact that it is so dark and painful and angsty, it's genuinely a really feel-good movie. And so there is nothing bad that I can say about this movie. It only goes on for about an hour and 30 minutes. It crushes your soul and makes you cry your eyes out, but it also gives you a little bit of hope for humanity. And one of my favorite lines of all time from it is just... I won't even go for that one. That's just a full-on spoiler. Like, I've broken down the general idea of the storyline. I realized immediately that I was like, oh yeah, I could say that she dies. That literally happens in the first 10 seconds. So yeah, before you find anything out about Matsuko and her life, you first get to know the fact that she died and discover the end that she ended up in, and then go back to the beginning and break it down. Memories of Matsuko, yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's my favorite movie of all time. Go check it out. It has everything. action, drama, suspense, comedy. The comedy's really good as well. And it plays out like an anime. So if you're a fan of anime, of over-the-top things, it's great. These are not going to be in order, by the way. This is definitely my number one. I have decided at some point in my life that Memories of Matsuko is my number one favorite movie of all time. The rest of the top 10 is just going to be things that I love out of order. So I think the next one, which is super freaking easy to talk about, I don't think anyone can disagree with this. It's my most basic bitch answer, but I'm going to throw it in anyway. Lord of the Rings trilogy. Particularly the extended editions. Oh, this one is not quite long enough. Dang it. Now, I didn't even, like, when I debuted and I got to do, like, my whole best movies of all time, what I like, I didn't even put Lord of the Rings in the list because it felt like such a basic bitch answer. I think if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, you've done an injustice to yourself. The fact that we did a Lord of the Rings watch along and we managed to have so many people in Nijisanji who had no idea what Lord of the Rings was frankly disgusting. But also incredible in its own way, because the good side of that was I got to see so many people who hadn't ever seen Lord of the Rings before watch the extended edition for the first time, which I was worried was going to feel like a slog for some of them. I was worried. I was like, me and Vox managed to talk them into doing the extended editions rather than the normal editions. Alira like made sure that her fans would be fine watching that with a poll as well, and everybody said, yeah, do the extended editions if you can get them. Then I suddenly realized as the stream was starting, oh, is this going to be too much? A 4-hour movie right out the bat? A 13-hour stream today? And yeah, the people who watched, the people who dropped in for any length of them enjoyed them. We had so many people show up for part one and they absolutely loved them. We had so many people who didn't know what they were getting into, like Luca, Rosemi, I can't remember who else. I hadn't seen them, but like showed up, started watching from part one and fell in love with the Shire, fell in love with the characters, loved the journey as they went on. Alira watched the whole way through everything in one day like a goddamn boss. I was so impressed by that. And watching it also reminded me just how much of a cinematic experience that was. Was it Sunny's first time too? I know it was Shu's first time, but didn't Shu like drop in on part two? Same for Yugo. Did Sunny watch part one, even though he should have been asleep? Yeah, man, proud of them. But it reminded me what an absolute masterpiece that was. And Lord of the Rings also genuinely changed the direction of cinema in general, because you not only had the general idea of like Lord of the Rings being an incredible movie when it released in the cinemas, the amount of attention they put into it, where they straight up refused to back down on the way they wanted to do it. They wanted to do all three movies. They recorded them all beforehand. They edited them and released them 1 year after another in quick succession. So yeah, the fact that they went ahead and filmed all those movies at the same time, not knowing if they were ever going to get any money back. If the first one had flopped and then they had to release the second and the third continuously after that, it would have been disgusting. It was such a gamble. And yeah, I was so happy that it worked out. Man, that plus the fact that once they did eventually release the extended editions, they released the extended editions as well as the making of the Lord of the Rings in a special DVD edition. And when they did that, that changed the absolute direction of cinematography in general. Suddenly you had people excited to watch an additional 6 hours of content just explaining the making of the movie. Just watching things about how the costumes were made, how the shots were set up, how they made the hobbits look so small compared to the humans in shots, how the actors were dealing with everything, how the directors were moving around. Like, they did that, and it probably inspired an entire generation of filmmakers that are just getting into filmmaking now 20 years later, that grew up watching those making of Lord of the Rings and said, that is beautiful. I can't believe they do all of that. And yeah, that was incredible. And from then on, we got so many other movies like following that wanted to have like extended edition or director's cuts specifically released, as well as like the making of. Suddenly every DVD set came with like a making of that was like as long as the movie. I like director's commentary. So yeah, that kind of shit is great. Oh man, it really changed the direction of cinema, and rewatching it again just reminded me how brilliant it was. They take the time to introduce the Shire, to introduce all the characters, to build everything up. Every scene, the music just shifts in and out from song to song. Because when you listen to the soundtracks one by one, you still love them. You still get the feeling of them. You get those Enya songs that are like thrown in throughout that are so beautiful, the vocalized ones. But the actual soundtrack itself by Howard Shore, like it just blends seamlessly from scene to scene. And yet they still sound good when you take each individual track out and listen to them. The amount of times they do the main Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship theme song and remix it in different ways, and it still sounds powerful and epic every time you hear it. Oh, the theme for the Rohirrim, everything is so good. It's so well done. But yeah, that movie, absolutely incredible from start to finish. Yeah, part 1 to part 3. There is nothing bad I have to say about Lord of the Rings either, other than the fact that they should have made just the extended edition, the original release. It's just then they probably would have chased people away with the idea of sitting down for a 4-hour film. But you know, it vaguely worked for like, how long is Titanic? I feel like people still show up for Titanic, even though I'm sure that one's like over 3 hours. Anyway, I love Lord of the Rings. I can geek about it forever. It's so beautiful. Let's move on, shall we? Oh man. Number 3. What should I put in here? I've just got these all listed out, so I don't know. I want to like sprinkle in a few ones that will surprise people, as well as a few that hopefully people will just know from like knowing me. Confessions. We'll throw in Confessions. So Confessions is another Japanese movie. Currently looking up who the direction is. The director is. Confession, it was made in 2010 and it was directed by Tetsuya Nakashima, who's a brilliant director who does a lot of my favorite films. That's why I had to look up the director for that one. Tetsuya Nakashima is an absolute mad lad. He also made some of my favorite movies, including number 1, Memories of Matsuko, and The World of Kaneko, which is absolutely crazy as well. It Comes, which is like a horror movie, but kind of relaxed and chill. But yeah, he's a brilliant director, and this one was based off of a novel by the name of Kokuhaku. So yeah, Confessions again, by Kanae Minato. And this one, I don't remember exactly how this one starts, but the basic premise is a teacher has been bringing her child to school with her one day, and he turns up dead in the swimming pool. And throughout the first hour of the film, it's the teacher basically standing in front of this class, all of the children screaming their heads off and ignoring her, just having fun by themselves, chilling, and being ignored while she's talking about the fact that she's quitting her job. And it keeps like flashing back in time to all the different ways that these children have been little shits throughout her career, and she's been trying to help them and trying to follow along with them, and exactly what happened to her child. And you just see a really dark storyline involving school children being horrible, horrible people. And this teacher like laying out her entire life in front of everyone, talking about how broken she is, the fact that she lost her child, the fact that she's quitting her job, she doesn't want to be a teacher anymore. And then she does a big twist moment, which I won't say. But basically, yeah, it's called Confessions because it's all about the confessions of the different students in the classroom, what they've done to be horrible to one another and to everybody else in the world, followed by the confession of the teacher, which goes in a very different direction than you might expect. So I can't really spoil this one at all. At the same time, all I can say is it's one of the most brilliant thriller pieces where you'll be on the edge of your seat the whole time. You'll never quite know what's going on fully, even though you might get a general idea of what's been happening. And it just keeps hitting you with surprises about how dark it is. The fact that it's based on a novel, but manages to perfectly adapt itself into cinema in a way that makes you just flabbergasted the whole way through. I can't even think of a word that's strong enough to really say shock, awe, amazement. I have watched this movie about 3 times. And every time I watch it, I'm still amazed by the way that they slowly reveal things. Even when you know exactly what's coming, it's still like, oh, this is directed so well. You start to think this about this child and then see the revelation about them. You start to think the teacher's just doing this and then the revelation about them is great. Oh, man. Did this get a comic? I don't know if it got a comic. I did not read the book for this one. I've never read the book for this one, but I love the movie so much. There are a few of these that are based on books where some of them I've read the books and a lot of them is just going to be like, no, I don't want to touch the books because these movies are just so freaking good. Confession is really good. Yeah, both the novel and movie are good. I would love to read the novel at some point. Fair enough. Would you read the book? Yes. I would read the book just to see how it was written, if it was done any differently, if the movie did it better or the same, like how much the movie actually takes from the book in terms of like setting up the storyline beats and how much it changes to adapt it properly as a movie. Because that's always very interesting. Some people are saying the novel is better. Okay, let's freaking go. Like Lord of the Rings? Yeah, except I can't read Lord of the Rings. Maybe I'll try again someday. But yeah, I've tried to read Lord of the Rings. Every time I've tried to, I've gotten a few pages in and been like, that's enough for me, I'm sorry. But Confessions is another incredible Japanese movie. Definitely worth a watch. And I just realized I never took off the text box. I'm sorry. That was probably annoying people, but that's fine. Number 4. I'll throw in another one that people probably know is pretty obvious for me. Yeah, I've talked about this one a lot, but we'll do it again. We'll get it out of the way real quick. I was surprised when I started to list out my top 10 movies of all time. I was like, what can I actually put here? Because you think about these kinds of things a lot where it's like, what are my favorite movies? And you can like list like a dozen off the top of your head, maybe 20, maybe 30. But it's hard to put it into like a top 10. And when I started writing out my top 10 movies of all time and started like listing them down and cutting things and seeing which I liked the most, 5 centimeters per second surprisingly made the cut, which I didn't expect. I knew this would be in like my top 20 to 30. I didn't expect that it would be in my top 10, but when I listed all my favorite films out and started cutting them, I was like, you know what? Yeah, no, that's only gotten better the older I've gotten. I still go back to watch this every few years. I went back to watch it about 9 months ago because it's one of those films that I like to watch when I'm feeling really down, when I'm feeling really depressed, when I'm feeling a bit broken about things. Makoto Shinkai did such a good job of having 3 separate storylines from separate parts of a person's life that somehow perfectly capture different stages of life that everybody in the world goes through. The first stage of life is like these cute kids who were in love, who got separated, who suddenly can't be with each other all the time like they used to, just trying desperately to meet up. Even though they don't live a ridiculously huge amount of distance away, they can still get like a train to each other, but everything gets in the way of that happening. They just miss each other and they're not quite able to link up with each other. And oh man, it's so powerful. It's so beautifully done. Like it starts with that powerful romance where it's like, yeah, this is what true love is. True love is like that little puppy love where you fall in love with someone instantly and you're like, oh, I just want to spend all my days with you. I'll do anything for you. I'll go across the country for you. I'll go around the world for you. Like that storyline there is so perfect for like the puppy love feeling you have where you start to cry your eyes out and you're like, no, they're meant to be with me. I'm meant to love them forever, that you have when you're like a young teenager. And then part 2 like completely ups the ante of that. It skips forward like 5 to 10 years. And then you have a teenage version of the character who is still in love with the girl, but at the same time has completely lost communication. And yeah, I'm going to spoil this one. This one's like 20 years old. If you want to come back in like 10 minutes, that's fine. This has 3 different parts to it, and each part is incredible, and I will talk about each part. So yeah, the second part is when they're like distanced from each other and they're no longer able to communicate at all. He still writes text messages to her, and yet continuously closes out the phone and doesn't actually send them. He will write messages as if he's still hanging out with her and cannot actually send them. He's too scared to send them. And so he just closes it back up, writes the message, has that like cathartic release of like, here's what I'm doing. It's basically like he's writing a diary that he continuously deletes. At the same time, we're introduced to a second character, a girl who is completely in love with this boy, but knows from day one that he's taken. She's continuously staring at him, watching him playing with his phone. And she's like, I love him so much. He's so wonderful. He comes from a big city and I'm a little country girl. He's so worldly and intelligent. He's already got a girlfriend. You see the way he's always texting. He'll never look at me. It's like that kind of unrequited love that we all feel at some point in our life where it's like, no, they're so perfect. They'd never be with me. But at the same time, I still chase after them. I still like them so much. I want to be with them. Oh, it's so depressing. It captures, again, another part of everybody's life that everybody has, whether you are that person who has already been in love with somebody so much that you don't feel like you can be in love with anyone else anymore. And so you just start spending your time thinking about that person, imagining what could have been, not able to look at anybody else in your life and the positive opportunities that could be there. And then also taking the secondary character who has just a pure unrequited love that they know is never going to work out, and yet continuously chases after that person and can't quite move on from them. especially when it comes to school age, where you're forced to stay with the same group of people for a solid 5, 10, 15 years of your life. You know that person's always going to be around you, whether you have a heartbreak, whether you love them, whether you hate them, you're always stuck with them. So school adds to that kind of drama. Oh man, I love that movie so much. And the third part is the one that gets me so much now as well. It's a very short part, but it's just another time skip forward where suddenly our main character is out in the working world. He's been through high school, he's been through university, he's got an office job, he's working his, probably not a 9 to 5, probably more like an 8 to 9 kind of thing. It does not look like he's doing great, and he's still lost in the past. And that is such a good analysis of people that do treat puppy love like it's the most important thing in the world, of people not just when it comes to love, but when it comes to life in general, when it comes to people's dreams. Like, he's working this office job because he's just been on autopilot his whole life. He was constantly reminded of the girl that he fell in love with. He just went to university, he finished all he had to do, he got the office job that everybody else got, and so he's so disillusioned with life at this point. He's realized that he's just looking backwards all the time, thinking about the girl he loved, thinking about the dreams he had, thinking about what could have been, and so he's just wasting his time doing nothing. I love films that capture that feeling. There are so many films that do capture that feeling of like lost nostalgia, looking back at time and realizing that you fucked up in a big way, but you can't go backwards anymore, so you're just immediately stuck in that. And there's only one way to actually get out of that, which is to forget about the past, start living in the present, and start moving forward. And there is that, like, that cathartic moment right at the end of the film where there is like a possibility that he'll be able to move on at that point. You never know if it actually does happen, which is great as well. You don't know, because I feel like that film was heavily influenced by Makoto Shinkai's actual life. I can't prove that, but I feel like that's true just from the fact that all of Makoto Shinkai's films have to do with like this lost love at a childhood, this growing up, this having to be forced into a box and trying to break out of it. Whether it is or not, it is 100% relatable to most otaku, most people who have been in that direction of life where they had to realize that they had to like move forward, stop looking in the past, stop living dreams, stop waking up every day and saying, I'm going to do something big today. And then instead jumping on the internet, watching anime, watching TV shows, reading light novels, realizing the day has just completely slipped you by, and then being like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to change everything. Tomorrow I'm going to hit the gym, I'm going to start eating healthy, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to get the dream job I want to, I'm going to start educating myself, I'm going to start working harder. Stop calling us out like this. I'm calling myself out like this. This is the thing. This is a feeling that's gone through my life so much, and it's a feeling that goes through my life so much even now. I think a lot of people would look at people that have joined Nijisanji and been like, oh, well, they've made their dreams come true. Look at them. They're a 2D anime person on the internet who just gets to do whatever they want all the time. We have these same feelings too. That's why I needed to take a really long break last time. Part of it was the surgery that I had to get, but the other part of it was I had gotten into a routine where I just woke up every morning and I just did whatever was on my schedule. I did whatever was on my schedule and then I was done for the day. I sometimes had to do like writing in the evening. There was so much like back work to do on the top end as well. But it got to the point where the only time I actually felt creative was just that like 2 hours or so on Wednesday to Friday, really, when I'd start making my schedule and be like, okay, what do we do this week? This will be a cool idea for a stream. That'll be a cool idea for a stream. Like listing things out and then being like, okay, that's done. And now I have to get back to all the other work I have to do. And then it became a routine office job kind of thing again, which is why I needed to take a break and relax and be like, I don't need to constantly be playing a game. I can Zatsudan. I can chill. I can take breaks when I need them. I can take 2 to 3 days off when I need them. And I know that's very funny to say right now, considering this is the week when we have no breaks, but that's just because there's so much content that I want to do this week. So yes, I'm in a much better place now after that break. I may have to take more breaks like that in the future. I'm glad that so many other members of Nijisanji are doing that for themselves as well. Voxy is doing that right now, realized that things were getting a bit too much and he needed to take a break for his mental health. I think everybody has that, where we slip into a routine and we realize that time is just passing us by. And that is a very office worker mentality, where if you're doing that, you're not really living your life. You're only really getting through your 9 to 5. And by that point, you're too drained to do anything else at the end of the day. And it sucks. So yeah, I think 5 centimeters per second captures that feeling so well. And so does so many of the Makoto Shinkai films capture that feeling when it comes to like love, living in the past, nostalgia. There's a Chinese film called... Crap. Oh no, what's it called? Oh man, it's not The Place Promised in Our Early Days. That's another Makoto Shinkai film. It's something about clouds, but there's another one that captures that nostalgia feeling so much that's really beautiful. Oh man. In fact, I can't remember. I'm sure somebody will remember at some point for me in the future. Chinese animated film. It is colorful. I'll move on to number 5. I'll hope that somebody can throw me the name of that one as we move forward. It's the one you mentioned, right? Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Okay, number 5. Let's go for a surprising one. Crystal Sky of Yesterday. Thank you, chat. Miscreant Ghost, thank you so much. And Queenie Lynn, and anyone else who said it that I missed. Crystal Sky of Yesterday is the other one. It's a Chinese animated film, which is really beautiful, which captures the feeling of nostalgia. It has a similar story where a man in his, I think he's in his late 20s, he might be in his early 30s, who has been a manga artist, returns to his hometown that's completely changed and starts remembering his childhood that he spent with a couple of friends, a girl that he loved. Like, there's so many flashbacks to that, and it's just, it's not forced drama. It's just that normal kind of like, I loved this girl. What happened? I loved these friends of mine. How did we grow so distant? I can't believe it's been 15 years already since I've seen them. That kind of feeling. And then added to the fact that they go back home, and obviously it was a small Chinese village that has massively changed in the time that he's been gone. It's got massively industrialized. And so even the town itself is so different from him. It's so beautiful. It's so well animated. It captures that feeling of nostalgia of just like longing for something that's already too far gone to ever be chased again. That will always just be remembered as a memory of the past that you can't quite get back. It's so good. So thank you, chat, for throwing out that name. That's really good. That's an extra bonus suggestion for you guys. I wouldn't put that in my top 10, but it's definitely like in my top 50. Okay, so yeah, next one. I'm not sure if many people have heard of this one. I don't know if you'd really call this much of anything. Like, I'm not sure if you call this a cult classic, if it's well known, if people think it's actually good or hate it. But there's a film called Mr. Nobody, which stars, I think is it Jared Way? Who's Morbius? It stars him. It stars Mr. Morbin. I feel like it's one that a lot of people talk about, but don't necessarily consider some of their favorite movies of all time. Jared Leto, not Jared Way. Jared Way, is that 30 Seconds? No, is that the other band is what I mean. Is that the Black Parade band leader? Anyway, it's it's Jared Leto. That's My Chemical Romance. Thank you. I was like, I know Jared Way is like somebody related to Jared Leto. Don't worry about it. It's Morbin time. Mr. Nobody. This is a film that actually just came to me at the right time in my life. Mr. Nobody is about a child who has to make a very life-changing decision. I won't say exactly what the decision is, but basically the movie jumps all around the place, all around to different directions, wherein at one point he is living in a beautiful life where he's rich, he did everything right. He has like $1 billion, he has a mansion, he has a beautiful spouse, he's in love, he's happy, and he's just sitting by the pool enjoying life, but things are just kind of passing him by. He doesn't know what really is going on because life is just too perfect. He doesn't have anything to do. Then in another timeline, he's super poor, but he's had the love of his life. He's been living with her for a long time. They're having the best time of their life. He's like a more artistic, endeavored kind of person. And he just loves this girl, loves his simple life, but at the same time is constantly struggling just to get by and survive. And then there's other timelines that are going on at the same time. Basically, it's like that movie Cloud Atlas. Where, no, it's not. It's like the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, but really simplified. But it all starts with this general idea of different timelines and a child who has to make a decision that could take him down one of two very branching paths, and then the directions that those paths branch off to. And the movie continuously hits you with, from side to side, like this dimension going on right now, this timeline going on right now. He's here now, he's like reading a script for something, and he's in this timeline where he's actually an architect. Like, it just jumps between all of them, and eventually it all comes together to reveal exactly what's going on, and never actually fully leads you into the idea of which timeline would be the true timeline, because that's not the point of it. The point of it is that any one of these decisions could happen, and he knows that any one of these decisions could happen. So it's really good. Parallel universe shit always kind of hits me in the right kind of way. And the decision the kid has to make at that point was one that hit me really hard at the time as well. I'm not going to say what the decision was because that will be a spoiler. But yeah, if you've watched the movie, you probably know what I mean. It's so good. So I'll move on from that one and just say that that one has some of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in like a random movie. Like it has some sci-fi moments as well as like the fantasy moments. It has some timelines that are really interesting and really like mind-breaking, but it's great. It's great. So number 6. I think I'll jump back to anime for this one because this one will probably be something that a lot of people have seen, and it's one of the rare ones that is actually relatively recent in this list, which is Maquia. I'm sure it has a subtitle, but I don't know what it is. One second. When the Promised Flower Blooms. There we go. Okay. So this is a incredibly beautiful movie, directed by Mari Okada, who before she directed this movie also made some of my favorite heartbreaking anime of all time. One of the reasons that I like this one is just how powerfully sad it is. So it's animated beautifully as well, as it damn well should be. Every scene in this movie is gorgeous. The lighting effects are so beautiful. The character designs are absolutely beautiful, and it focuses along the storyline of a race of girls who basically live forever. They're not necessarily 100% immortal. They can certainly be killed like elves in Lord of the Rings. They can die in battle. They can die from damage and bloodshed. But when it comes to their old age, it takes them essentially forever compared to humanity. Like you can go through 10 human lives and they will have aged like barely a year in their time. So just with that storyline, you probably can tell that it's going to be tragic and heartbreaking and really messed up. And the best thing about this movie is, again, it's another one that will just get you so deeply if you feel the same way that the director feels. This is one of the ones where I actually did read into the background of Mari Okada, the director, and find out that she did have like a lot of issues with her mother when she was growing up, which you'll see in a lot of her works. A lot of her works have very complicated relationships between a child and the mother, specifically like a daughter and the mother. Anohana has that kind of feeling. What was the one? Nagi no Asakada has that kind of feeling. And Maquia has that kind of feeling wherein there's a girl who becomes a mother who isn't necessarily ready to become a mother, doesn't understand what's going on in her life, and so does have to raise a child despite the fact that they're kind of a child themselves. Added to the fact that you've also got like the storyline of the main girl being an immortal but being removed from her home, so she's no longer surrounded by immortals anymore. Instead, she's living essentially in the human realm at that point, being surrounded by people who will age, who will die, who will come into her life, be a part of her life, who she'll grow attached to, who she may fall in love with, and then have to watch age and slowly wilt and pass away, while she'll just have to continue on her journey without them. I just realized I talked about it being the girls. There are actually some boys in this in that group as well. I realized like there's one boy in the main characters and there's another boy in a different part of the world. But yeah, they are actually there is actually boys and girls in that group. It's just the main group is a bunch of girls. But yeah, it goes through their story. It's full of war, it's full of bloodshed, it's full of drama, and the main storyline just focuses on one girl who is just trying to live in the mortal realm, have a life that she enjoys despite the fact that everyone around her is going to age and going to die. And I love that kind of storyline. It was something that I feel like didn't get leaned into enough until really recently. Like they kind of lean into that when it comes to like Lord of the Rings. Like we go back to Lord of the Rings and you have like Arwen being an immortal elf who will eventually see Aragorn die. Like that's a main part of her character, she thinks. And then yeah, when it comes to Maquia, it's that kind of feeling as well. And now we've got like Freyren, which is a beautiful manga, which just recently got announced that it's getting an anime adaptation as well. So I'm really excited for. If they do that justice, it's going to be one of the best anime of all time. But yeah, I love that feeling of like getting to see an entire character's lifespan from beginning to end, seeing where they go wrong, where they go right, how things happen. And you only really get that with stories that do involve like some sort of immortality, some sort of one character being there throughout the beginning and end to watch it all. So yeah, I cannot wait to see Freyren and Maquia. Definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably not a surprise if you know how much I like angst and how much I like pain. You love immortality-induced angst, don't you? Yeah, I do. Probably why I like vampires so much as well. Good vampires, not always vampires. Maquia is kind of obvious. At the same time, kind of different from a lot of these. How about we go for... This one will probably come out of left field for a lot of people. Hero. Hero is a martial arts movie starring, I believe, Jet Li and Donnie Yen. 1 second. Hero movie. That one. Show me the cast. It does have both of them. So my two favorite like martial arts movie actors as well. So this is a movie in which a warrior shows up at the, I believe, the Imperial Palace. Anyway, basically he walks up to what is essentially the Emperor or the King and says, I have defeated all of the assassins that you've asked to be defeated. Like he lists them off one by one. He goes through them and he explains how he defeated them. Every time he does, the King, Emperor, something, respects him a bit more, and so allows him to come closer to him, allows him to be more respected in the kingdom. And it's just this guy who is literally nameless walking forward and explaining how he defeated this assassin and that assassin, and he claimed this bounty and that bounty, and earning the respect of this person. And it's so incredible. It's very, I would say it's wuxia rather than shansha, because they do some very superhuman things, but I don't think it ever gets to the level of like people becoming immortals or anything. So probably wuxia. But the martial arts in it is incredible. You have like characters having entire fights in their heads, just staring at each other, sizing each other up, and knowing exactly what's going to happen if they actually fight each other. You have the fact that when they do fight each other, they can like run up the walls, glide through the air, run along water. It's so good. And the music complements every part of it as well. The visual direction is so beautiful when you have like arrows raining down in the air, essentially blocking out the sun. You have these beautiful fantasy outfits that are all like so vibrantly colored. It sounds very chuddy. It's so chuddy. I loved House of the Flying Daggers. Very similar, even more beautifully like visual. But yeah, when it comes to Hero, it's a bit less beautiful visually, but I love the storyline so much, which involves this nameless hero just showing up and like explaining how he's defeated all these enemies, earning the king's respect bit by bit, and just like, ooh, so good, so good. I can't even talk about like the latter half of the film, which is just incredible. This one, if you like martial arts movies, watch this. If you like fantasy movies, watch this. It's so good. The fighting in it is so good. Like I said, two of my favorite actors when it comes to martial arts and action movies in general, Jet Li and Donnie Yen, both get really good like roles in it. It's so good. The epic final scene, I know, but we won't talk about that. We'll just move on. There's a lot about that one that I can't talk about other than just the fact that it was one of the first things that got me into how cool like wuxia could be. Like I guess the first wuxia that came out that was like even better received than that one would probably be Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in the West. And then Hero came out and just blew my mind with how much cooler the fight scenes could become and how deep that storyline was. Oh god, I just loved it so much. And then yeah, then I eventually got into Shansha and absolutely fell in love with it, and that's how I ended up a donghua addict. This one is probably going to be pretty obvious for a lot of people, since we just did one that probably was a bit of a surprise for some people to be in my top 10 at least. We're going to go with Arrival. Our first sci-fi. Well, I guess you could technically count Mr. Nobody as a sci-fi. But this is our first proper sci-fi movie on the list, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Obviously, it's my number 8 in my top 10. God, the things I say. Arrival is a movie that starts off with an alien ship, well, actually 12 alien ships coming down, and just landing on different parts of Earth. They all look like a giant Terry's chocolate orange segment. They're like giant eggs, but divided into 12 little sections of eggs. They just come down and nothing happens for a while. So all of humans just freak out. It starts off in this beautiful way where a teacher just goes into work and she realizes that nobody's shown up for her class, and the few people that have actually shown up for her class and sit down like one by one will like bring out their phones and then react to the news and freak out and run away. And she just has this cool mentality of like looking up and being like, oh, aliens, and just going home like, oh, I guess we're not working today then. The alien ships just sit there for a while and do nothing while all of humanity is freaking out and wondering what the shit is going on. Oh man, from then on it just becomes better. Like the teacher, the main character, is a linguistics professor, I think you would call them. I don't remember. But basically her whole study is in the inception, creation, and development of languages. And so they recruit her to come join their team, who is basically studying the aliens, going in to communicate with the aliens, because they need to figure out exactly what their language is and learn to communicate with them. At first they try to do it with sounds and it doesn't work, so then they try to do it with writing, and she starts to figure out the aliens' alphabet, and then it gets very complicated. It has this really cool sci-fi concept. I don't think the concept is quite a spoiler, but I'm not going to tell you anyway. I'm just going to tell you it's one of the slowest burning sci-fi films I've ever seen, especially one which literally has aliens come down to Earth in the first 5 minutes. And from then on, the whole movie is just them trying to communicate with the aliens and figure out some things. And then the final half hour of the film is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's not so much cosmic horror. It is cosmic intrigue. Like the big twist that happens at the end when it comes to the language and the way that language affects people is really freaking cool. And it makes you rethink the entirety of the movie, because you start the movie thinking that one thing has happened and then you, oh man, it's just hard to explain without spoiling anything. I haven't read the novel yet. I've heard it's based on, yeah, a short story rather than a proper long novel. I do want to read the novel at some point to see how they did it. But the most beautiful song I've ever heard in my life is called On the Nature of Daylight by Max Richter. And the end of this movie ends up featuring like a 10-minute segment of On the Nature of Daylight, which just goes through so much of the professor's life from beginning to end. Oh my God. It's set to that beautiful music On the Nature of Daylight. It's so incredible. It's just one long motif about pain and suffering and humanity and going forward. Yeah, it's just one of the best directed things I've ever seen, which really, like, that's one of the ones where it doesn't just like pull the wool over your eyes. It pulls the carpet out from under you. Once you realize exactly what's gone on in that storyline and how many hints they gave you throughout the storyline, it's really wild. There's a novel. I think it's a novella more than anything else. But yeah, that one is really powerful. I remember the first time I watched it in the cinema. That was back when I actually went to the cinema. I remember just talking about it with people as I left the cinema for like a solid hour on the way home, and still thinking about it the night after, and then wanting to talk about it again the day after. And even now, if anybody's seen the movie and likes the movie and likes to talk about it, then I can talk about it like with spoilers for like a solid 2-3 hours, just about all the different things. It's great. It's one that will stick with you for a long time. Did I put 9 instead of 10 movies? That's pretty funny. I think I did 9. Yeah, I did 9 instead of 10. Whoops. I'm gonna have to make up a 10th on the way. Well, number 9, probably no surprise to anybody because I had it on my list of things on day one debut, is Fight Club. For a very similar reason, actually. This is another one of those movies that absolutely broke my mind with a big revelation in it. It's directed so incredibly, where you can kind of see what's happening as it goes on, but even then, when it does the revelation, it still hits you incredibly hard. And it has a really interesting storyline to tell while being absolutely batshit crazy. We don't talk about Fight Club. That's rule 1 and 2, but we're going to do it anyway. You're allowed to talk about Fight Club. You're just not allowed to talk about the other thing. But no, it's an incredible movie which has to do with a person who has insomnia. He literally can't sleep. and how he is working an office job, again, a 9 to 5, and essentially losing his mind bit by bit. He finally finds out that he's able to feel emotion and go to sleep if he starts to surround himself with people that are surrounded by death, who essentially like feel worse than him. And yeah, then it turns into this whole different direction where he meets someone who changes his life, and the way they interact with each other from then on changes them both completely, and it's just absolutely batshit. It's wild. The fight scenes in it, that's the funny thing. It's called Fight Club. The fight scenes in it aren't particularly good, but they're very realistic. Like, it only takes a few punches to knock someone out, and from there on, they do like massive damage, as in a real world kind of situation, where a couple well-aimed punches can actually kill someone. Shit gets real, and then it ends up being like a big, like, I could talk about that. Like, it deals a lot with the idea of like anarchy versus complacency, order versus chaos, and people that kind of get left behind, who have big dreams about themselves and where they think they fit into the world, and things like that. It has some very good political commentary as well as like emotional commentary, and just the direction in general is beautiful. Like I said, there's a big reveal at one point, but even before that, like, it does a good job of like lifting up your expectations about what's going on in the storyline, guiding them in a certain way, and then fucking with you with that, using that against you. Hits home a lot too. Yeah, I feel that. The ending song will stick with me forever. Oh yeah, the Pixies. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Really good song. Will stick with you for a long time. And yeah, I think I fucked up here. Yeah, I gave myself 9 out of 10 out of 10. Okay, let me grab one from one of my list of things that is my top 5 other things. I don't know. I have so many movies in here. I'm gonna throw in you know what? I'll throw in another. This is a movie that I've probably seen like 4 times by now, and a lot of people will probably like not be happy about this one, but screw it. It's called Tag, also known as Ryaru Onigako. Onigako? Oh, 1 minute. I need to look this up properly. Tag. Onigako. Okay. This has some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. It has one of the most wild stories I've ever seen, and it's directed by one of my favorite directors of all time, Sion Sono. Thank you, chat, for helping me spell Onigoko. Tag is a movie that starts off with a bunch of schoolgirls who have just been on a class trip, returning home in their school bus, and they're all doing like typical anime, over-the-top girly shoujo things in the bus, talking about crushes, writing in diaries, having a fun time. The one girl drops her pencil, bends down to pick it up off the ground, and what happens? The entire top half of the 3 buses in a row gets cut in half seemingly by the wind, which means every girl in the bus driver, the teachers, every student, all of their bodies are just cut in half. This girl who bent down to pick up the pencil stands back up, and she is covered in blood. Everybody around her is dead. The bus is slowly ground to a halt, and she's just stood there freaking out and not knowing what the hell is going on. That is the trailer that I saw for the movie. That is what drew me into the movie, and that is a scene that will stick with me for the rest of my life. From there on, a lot of people would say that it's pretty stupid. I don't think so. It deals with, again, a lot of the whole kind of like moving through different timelines and dimensions kind of things, but it doesn't really explain it in any way that makes too much sense, because it doesn't get weighed down by any of that. It doesn't feel like it needs to be a true sci-fi movie. Rather, it's a more impressionistic kind of movie, where it has to deal with the general idea of how women are treated in fiction, which is even more interesting coming from a director like Sion Sono, who does often use women for their how to say it, clickbaitiness, who does use like very attractive women in a lot of his movies and put them into situations where they're like half dressed and covered in blood, you know, like the old school horror kind of things where it's like, how do I make this woman like in very little clothing and wet and defenseless? And yeah, it does that kind of thing with this movie. It's something that Sion Sono did a lot as a director, but then he put it into this movie, and the whole entire like plot of the movie is the idea of women being used against their will, being guided into particular roles, being used as fan service and looked at through the male gaze. And despite that, it does it in a way that still appeals to the male gaze, that still like draws in the same kind of crowd who would want to watch the type of movie that starts with a shit ton of schoolgirls being cut in half and a girl being covered in blood and running away from an invisible attacker, and then continues to go in that direction with like schlock horror kind of things, graphic content. The second scene, I don't think I have to spoil this. Is like, I don't think I really have to worry about spoiling this because this is also 10 minutes in, is just her getting back to school, everyone acting as if everything's normal. She's like cleaned the blood off herself and found a different school uniform. She gets to school, everybody's fine, all her friends are there again. And then the teachers just suddenly bring out machine guns and rocket launchers and say, hey, there's too many schoolgirls in this world. We have to cut you down by about 90%, and start shooting their own school kids. It sounds scary, but it's silly. I saw people in chat being like, that sounds so creepy. That sounds so scary. It's that general idea. It takes that kind of storyline where it's like, this is made to be exploitive, and then it says, yes, it's exploitive, and we do this so much to people that affects them in real life, that people feel like they have to peg themselves put themselves in certain categories in real life just to get by. It's a really deep movie. It has some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. If you're talking about like the end of Fight Club having one of the best songs I've ever heard, the end of Tag has a song called Mono, White as Snow, and it just plays that song, which is a nice like 12-minute long instrumental song. Oh, it's just so beautiful. That stuck with me forever. He slipped. I don't remember the term. There's a term for like a peg in a hole or something, where like, yeah, something like that, which is why the word pegged came out. But yeah, the general idea of like people feeling like they have to fit themselves into certain molds rather than being themselves for who they are. Like, I feel like that's something that doesn't just occur to women, but also like occur to everybody in the real world, especially like if you're an entertainer, if you're someone in the public world as well. There's the general idea of like, well, what kind of character am I? What do people expect of me? Do I be say-so? Do I be unsay-so? Am I the Ikemen? Am I the Oji-san? Am I this? Am I that? And try to like fit themselves into expectations and molds rather than being themselves fully, which makes them a more fleshed out person, but gets them less people to follow along with them. So yeah, square peg in a round hole. I don't know. I guess I was just putting things in a different way. But that's what I love about this movie. Tag like starts off acting like it's just another silly exploitive movie. Throughout the entire thing, it continues to be a silly exploitive movie, which you have a lot of fun with. But then when you actually look at the subtext in it all, it's talking about those kinds of movies and how we treat people in real life and how much that can affect people. So it's great at that. There are so many people who will watch this movie and just be like, I liked the bit where the girls had a pillow fight by the lake and then got attacked by a crocodile. That is a scene that actually fucking happens in this movie. They have a pillow fight by a lake and get attacked by a crocodile. However, then you can also have a really deep conversation about all the subtext, about how it explores the ideas of how women are treated in fiction, in cinema in general, and how we do that to celebrities in general, and just kind of, yeah, exploit people for whatever we can exploit them for before moving on. Sion Sono, brilliant director. Fourth wall break, kind of. That's the thing. I can't even like talk about the end of the film and how things are revealed, but yeah, it does lead you into this general idea where it calls out the audience members while also saying like, I mean, yeah, this is what we do. Especially since it's this director who's done that throughout his career, because I love Sion Sono's movies for that. Also calling himself out while directing this. Okay. My God, you were so emo. Thank you. Thank you. I am. With that said, we're done with my top 10 movies. I'm going to start going through genre things, and we're going to fly through a couple of these. Also, you know what? I'm going to open it up to Totsumachi now. If people jump in, then that's great. And I'm also going to start going through my actual list of... I can't believe it's been an hour. How did it take us an hour to get through my top 10? I'm sorry, guys. I talk too much. I talk too much. But I'm going to jump into the Totsumachi. If anyone wants to jump in, they can. But we're going to start going through genre lists. It's been an hour. I know. And that's just on the top 10 general movies. The genre that I was going to start with first, and we're going to do like a top 5 for these, because it's just going to be like the best of the best, and then maybe I'll mention some honorable mentions for things. But when it comes to the top 5, I wanted to talk about genres in general, because I watch different genres of movies for different things. When it comes to like, there's sometimes you just want to turn your mind off and just see people beat the crap out of each other, see great explosions, see great action, turn your mind off and be like, that's so freaking cool. Oh, I love this. Oh, I wish I was as badass as that character. And yeah, that's like action movies. So yeah, I've got like top 5 action. I've got like top 5 fantasy, which normally I like things that make me like properly escape from reality. I like to watch the type of fantasy movies that feel completely unrelated to reality. Maybe have some parallels with the real world that you can draw into them, but mostly actually feel like a different world. Don't just start with like, oh, it's a fantasy because there's some magic things. I didn't put that into my top 5 fantasies. I went for the ones that are actually set in an entire like fantasy worlds, whether they're soft or hard, whether they're high fantasy or low fantasy, at least they are heavy fantasy. I've also got a top 5 sci-fi, which I mean, I've already talked about one sci-fi film, but sci-fis I love so much because they deal with like dark horror aspects a lot of the time. Sometimes they're very fantasy-like as well. But I've heard people talk about the fact that like fantasy and sci-fi are related in the fact that they deal with ideas from our current time period, like emotions, feelings, developments. But fantasy does so putting it in like a historical and over-the-top magical kind of scenario, whereas sci-fi puts us forward in the future and deals with it within like a futuristic sci-fi kind of scenario where things are related to science but still very fantastical. And so yeah, the way that those interact with our own world and develop things that we're already dealing with now, maybe problems of like overpopulation or what we're doing to the planet, how we evolve as a species, all of those kinds of things. Yeah, always fun to see in that kind of thing. But the type of movies that I watch the most, don't really watch the most. The type of movies that I come back to continuously. These will be the top 5 movies that I've seen probably more than anything else in the world. Because when I'm feeling bad, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling angry, when I need to escape life a little bit, when I need to drink some alcohol, I turn to comedies. That's too big. Come on now. There we go. So I'm going to do my top 5 comedies now. And these are the ones that I come back to continuously so much in my life. Whenever I'm feeling bad, whenever I'm feeling down and sad, I will just come back to these and be like, you know what? Today's a... Why's that still... Oh, I've changed them. Oh, no. Yes. 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 No. No. Yes. There we go. There's the top 5. But yeah, I end up coming back to these most of anything in my life. I don't know if you guys feel the same. I rewatch like a lot of story-driven things. My top 10 movies, I've probably seen some of them like 3-4 times. I've watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy like 5 times. Maybe 6 or 7. No, maybe, yeah, 6 or 7. I've probably watched like Tag like 3 times. Memory of Matsuko like 5 times. Arrival like 5 times. A lot of these comedy movies I would have watched like 7, 8 times. Just whenever I need to escape from reality. And I saw someone immediately put out my number 1. So sure, let's go for it. Monty Python. And I'm not going to limit this to one of the Monty Pythons, though I am one of the odd people that actually prefers the meaning of life to a Holy Grail. For me, it goes meaning of life, Holy Grail, Life of Brian. Is there a 4th one? There is, I can't remember it right now. But yeah, for other people, I feel like the number 1 for most people tends to be Holy Grail. Either way, number 1, Monty Python movies in general. They have some of the most quotable lines you will ever hear. They always make me laugh my ass off from beginning to end. There is never a time while watching Monty Python movies that I think about anything else. as they just come at you with joke after joke after joke. They're all related to the real world a lot of the time, even though they're like decades and decades old. It's still very relatable humor that you find yourself laughing at, and you're like, huh, I didn't even know that that was still a joke we could make. But yeah, the fact that they started off that long ago and was still able to stick with us, like some of it's just so completely removed from reality. Like I remember the Black Knight who has his body parts cut off bit by bit, and just like here's a flesh wound. No, you're missing an arm. Oh, I'm not. Like continues fighting even as he loses things. Like, oh my god, that's great. Oh man, there's so many jokes about religion when it comes to the meaning of life I probably don't want to dive into, but they're fucking hilarious. Some of them are very like serious and related to things that were happening at the time. Some of them are just timeless and will stick with you no matter what. Then there's The Life of Brian, which is literally about essentially Jesus. Oh man, it's so wild. I think that's why so many people can like enjoy the Holy Grail so much more, because it is just based off of Arthurian legends, and it's based off of the fact that there used to be so many Arthurian movies being made that they could just make references to how silly some of the moments were. Like I remember there's a moment where they talk about going to Camelot, and the main dude's like, no, we shan't go to Camelot, 'tis a silly place after all. And that's just related to the fact that all the movies had Camelot have a bunch of silly dancing and singing scenes, and they were like, that made sense at the time. I've never watched any of those movies about like old Arthurian legends, so that just made no sense to me. It was just a funny scene where they think about what's going on at Camelot, and they're like, no, let's not go there. Don't say Camelot, how dare you. Clicks coconuts together, exactly. Them running around pretending they're on horses when actually they're just running in a silly way, going up and down, and then also clicking coconuts together to make the sound of horse hooves. Oh my god, the insults that the French knights shout over the wall that make no sense unless you properly think of them. You have to really think about like olden time and words to understand, like, your father smelled of elderberries, talking about the general idea that your father was a drunk because a lot of alcohol was made with elderberries. Oh man, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, such a good song. Such a good song for so many things, because it has that like nihilistic worldview of like, hey, the world's gonna keep spinning and you're gonna be dead someday, who gives a damn? Always look on the bright side of life. Like, it doesn't matter. You're here. Enjoy life while you're here. It's such a good ending to the meaning of life. The meaning of life has so many good moments. And again, a lot of that relatable humor that has to do with like working a 9-to-5 office job, being trapped in something that feels like it takes up your whole life and you don't get any say in. When it comes to like the first opening scene, which also comes into the main storyline later, where you just have the office workers, I think they work at a bank or a financial institute or lawyers or something, just deciding to go rogue, and they hit the high seas. They like literally somehow pull their building out of the ground and start riding it like it's a pirate ship and evading other people and attacking other people. It's some of the stupidest ideas you'll ever see in comedy, and they do it so well and so convincingly. And the actors commit to every role they take so well. It's always so funny. Oh man, why is it always about office life? Because so many people, everybody at some point in their life gets stuck doing a job. I mean, so many of them do focus on like the office life, and I just talk about the 9-to-5 because I feel like everybody has like that first job where it's like either food service or delivering stuff or anything like that. Being an assistant to someone else because you want to start on like a big firm kind of thing, and it's like you have to start by fetching people's coffee and doing like photocopies and stuff. Everybody like starts at that point at some point in their life. We're in the grind, exactly. So yeah, so much humor starts from there and then branches out in different directions. So yeah, that makes it very relatable to adults. Whereas like that's one of the reasons I kind of fell off anime for a long time as well, is because so many of the anime appeal to like a younger crowd, and so everything's set in high school or middle school. And it's like, I've had enough of high school settings. Please give us some university, give us some adult, give us some hardworking people. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's like one of the best comedy series of all time is The Office. They always like focus on that kind of thing. Okay, so Monty Python movies. I'll put out the one that's probably going to get me shat on for being a basic bitch the most. I don't care. It's one of the funniest movies of all time. It's one of the funniest pairs of things of all time. Deadpool, fight me. It's fucking hilarious. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Ryan Reynolds is hilarious as Deadpool. The first two movies have been incredible. I hope the third movie is as good. The the way that they break the fourth wall, and the way that they've evolved the idea of breaking the fourth wall. Because in the comics, it's so easy for them to just have Deadpool look into the camera and say things, but that has been done to death in cinema. So how do they break the fourth wall beyond breaking the fourth wall in the movies? They have the actor, Ryan Reynolds, make things related to his own life, make things related to other X-Men actors in the real world. Talk about fucking Wolverine instead. Instead of talking about Wolverine, he talks about, oh, what's his actual name? Oh, fuck, what's Wolverine's actor's name? Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Somebody's gonna kill me for that one. Hugh Jackman. I love how somebody typed in huge Jackman. But yeah, bringing out like the real world into things as a way to break the fourth wall beyond that. Talking about Hugh Jackman when it comes to Wolverine, talking about the people who have played multiple different levels of the X-Men. I remember when he talks about like Professor Xavier and he asks like, which one? Is it this one or that one? And then at the end of the films where he gets to like break the fourth wall even further and interact with real world Ryan Reynolds. Some of the funniest things I've ever fucking seen. And the way that they commit to the storyline so much, with Deadpool like having limbs cut off and growing them back. The emotional like drama parts as well actually worked very well. In the first one, it was the general idea of him feeling like he was turned into a monster, didn't deserve love and didn't deserve like a human life anymore. And in the second one, it was more of a family kind of affair where he had to move on with a bit of a tragedy and then find a family and decide that he actually wanted to keep living with them. Like the emotional parts are very good. And then the actual comedy parts just kill me. It really is. There's like a joke every scene minimum, normally like 3 to 4 jokes every scene that are constantly building off of one another and reference each other and reference the entire like comic world as well as the general idea of superhero movies. Ah, man. I don't like the did you recognize the reference type of humor. I feel that. But even then, if it's not like, not even recognizing the reference, I feel like it's pretty silly. And you're able to laugh at like different parts of it. But I get what you mean. Like a lot of it is like, oh, did you get the whole thing about it being Ryan Reynolds or this thing that's related to the comics or, oh, this is funny meme. Like I know that that's a lot of the reasons that people don't like Deadpool in general, is a lot of it comes from the general internet headspace of like regurgitating the same memes that have been there a dozen times. I know that's a lot of the reasons that people are getting kind of sick of Harley Quinn a lot recently as well. It's a lot of reused things. But yeah, I still enjoy those movies so much and can go back and watch them continuously. I love them. Moving on from that, I think this is like one of everyone's favorite movies, and I'm British, so it had to be added in. I feel like a lot of people would say the Cornetto trilogy, and a lot of people think a lot of people's favorite Cornetto trilogy is Shaun of the Dead. Fight me. Again, this is another one where I'm being contrarian about which one is my favorite, but all of them are good, but I'm gonna go with Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz is the funniest of the Cornetto trilogy for me, and in general it's just freaking hilarious to me. I didn't really talk about the storyline of Deadpool because there was no real need to. I feel like everybody either knows Deadpool one way or the other. But when it comes to Hot Fuzz, the general idea is there's this amazing police officer who does everything a little bit too perfectly. He basically starts annoying his superiors by being so good. And so to put him in his place, they send him to a tiny little village in, I think, the West Midlands. I feel like it's the West Midlands just because of that accent that everyone has. They have that kind of West Midlander accent from a part of England I couldn't really name, but yeah. So it's a very sleepy village where nothing really happens in the town. It has some of, again, the most quotable moments of all time. Can we get a Cornetto? Should we get a Cornetto? Should we pop down the pub? Those kinds of things. And then also just some of the over-the-top ridiculous things. It turns out there is something big going down on the town, which is also... And that's what I love about this movie as well. You think something absolutely terrible is happening in the town, and then it turns out it is something rather more simplistic, just done in a very dark way. You end up laughing your ass off the entire way through. There's scenes where, like, the most important thing the police officers have to do is chase down an angry swan that's chasing around people and hurting them. It's just the one goose. Yeah, it's a goose rather than a swan. There you go. That shows you how long it's been since I watched that movie. But it's just so fucking funny. All of the scenes made me laugh, and just the man jumping over the fence, slamming through. It's just so good. Oh, man. New luck catching them swans then. Exactly. So fucking funny. It's just the one goose. It's really freaking funny. It's worth watching no matter what. It's worth watching the entire Cornetto trilogy. I feel like a lot of people say Shaun of the Dead is their favorite. That's just a what would you call that? A parody of like zombie movies. So it's like a zombie apocalypse happens and it's this one dude who just always spends his days at the pub realizing, oh, a zombie apocalypse has happened. Maybe we should actually do something about it. And then there's The World's End, which is a bit of a nostalgia feeling as well, where it's just a dude trying to do a pub crawl with his friends that he hasn't hung out with for a long time. It's so good. The origin story of Tight Swan. There you go. I was that swan, fucking up the entire village. Anyway, really good movies. All three are worth a watch. I'd say The World's End is probably a bit less good than the other two, but Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead are both amazing. Hot Fuzz is just my favorite. Sorry, I really need to remember to say I'm going to be blowing my nose before I just do it and just go dark for like 10 seconds. Sorry. Okay, number 4. They got kind of hard here. I'll go for the obvious one. I feel like everybody knows how much I love this director. Everybody knows by now how much I love vampires. Everybody knows how much I love this movie. So, and the TV series that spawned from it. So fuck it. What we do in the shadows. This one is a parody over like documentary kind of movies. It's a mockumentary based on the idea of a film crew going in and recording a group of vampires. And they're vampires from different ages. They take like, oh, yo, let's go Taka. Taka knows about this one. They take like vampires from different ages, which do reference like all of like the different history of sexy vampire kind. Like they start with like the Nosferatu kind of vampire who's existed for thousands of years, who just looks like a ghoul, like pure white, like stone carved face that doesn't look quite human, the long stabby fingers, the big long ears. And then they have like a vampire who's from like the Middle Ages, so he's a bit more like Dracula. He's a bit sexy, he's fueled by blood and sex. And then they have like the more recent ones that I feel like the main character, who's played by Taika Waititi, who's also the director of this film, like he was probably based off of like the Vampire Chronicles kind of vampires, where he's from like 100 to 200 years ago. He's very effeminate for a man. He's very worried about like spilling blood in places and looking pretty while he does things and doing the dishes and not leaving dead bodies everywhere, whereas some of the other vampires are like, we're vampires, we kill humans, that's all we do, we don't need to make them feel good when they die, we don't need to care about their feelings. And then a very much more modern day vampire where it's just like zero fucks given. What literally like talks about being Twilight continuously, literally says to people in the streets, yeah, I'm Twilight, that's me, I'm Twilight. And the energy vampire. The energy vampire actually didn't come into the movie. I mean, we're talking about the movie right now. The series is actually incredible as well. Unfortunately, the newest season just ended, which is really sad. I fucking love Laszlo in that series, man. Laszlo carries that series. So Laszlo and Nadia are so amazing as characters. Nandor's pretty funny as well. Guillermo is a goddamn mood and is hilarious. But sorry, distractions. The series is incredible as well. The movie, however, started it all off, spawned some of the best jokes that happen in like the first few episodes of the TV series. Like they reuse a lot of the jokes from the movies, but they've also gone like a lot further. One of my funniest things when it comes to What We Do in the Shadows is when you meet the werewolves for the first time and you're expecting like these seriously like angsty, over the top people. And instead they show up and they're like really chill and really nice. And yeah, they turn into werewolves, but they don't want to be too aggressive and too ridiculous. Like they have a leader of the pack, but he tries to tell everyone to be calm. Every time they swear in front of him, he says, hey, hey, calm down, calm down. We're not swearwolves, we're werewolves. We're werewolves, not swearwolves. Like, you cut that out, be nice. He like tries to keep them all basically relaxed. They're basically Luca. I feel that. I feel that. It's like, yeah, no, I'm the evil mafia boss. Pug. Oh my god, I loved the werewolves so much. The vampires were so funny. And again, it's another one of those moments where they occasionally get like the deep emotional parts thrown in. I feel like comedy is one of the best ways to actually hit you with feels as well. Because if you laugh at somebody, if you enjoy somebody's company, if you want to see somebody succeed, as you do with people that make you laugh, that make you happy, then it tears your heart out even more when you suddenly throw yourself into the scenario where they're being destroyed emotionally and you feel bad for them in that regard. Oh. Hello, Taka.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I was playing around and I saw you're talking about movies and shucks, I missed you talking about Hot Fuzz. Damn.
Oh, you can go ahead and talk about Hot Fuzz again. We're still talking about comedies, so that's all good.
But what is it? Those three movies is one of my like guilty pleasure movie to watch whenever I don't know what to watch. The whole like Cornetto trilogy.
That's what I mean. Like comedy movies, you can just put them on at any time. You don't have to be in any kind of mood. But also, if you're in a bad mood, if you're in like a sad mood, you put a comedy movie on, it will often like just draw you out of it immediately and save you from that. Especially if you add alcohol to the mix.
Yeah. There's this like one phase in my back then where I just couldn't stop talking about those three movies. I'm like seeking for anyone who wants to try and will watch with them, just to see their reactions to the movies.
Oh, I feel that. Like that's yeah. When it comes to like my favorite movies, I try to drag people into watching them as well and be like, "Yo, you need to watch this one though. I want to see your reaction to it. Let's go." Which one is your favorite of the three?
Hot Fuzz.
Let's go. Okay, I feel like for so many people, it's Shaun of the Dead. I'm glad you're with me on Hot Fuzz.
Most of the people is Hot Fuzz, Shaun, and the last one is World's End. But for me, it's my personal list. Hot Fuzz, World's End, and Shaun.
Let's go. We're on the same
I just have more
wavelength.
like what is it? Like deeper attachment to the themes of the World's End.
Oh, okay. I
don't know.
like that. Yeah,
like
that's possible.
seeing like all the like old friends getting together to do things they haven't finished before, just kind of hits home.
Yeah, the nostalgia hits hard. Like I was talking about my top 10 movies earlier, and we talked about like a lot of those kinds of movies where people that have been separated for like 10 years or so come back, and it's just like, oh wow, things really have changed. We'll never be able to go back to that like back then.
And yeah, at that point I just follow whatever Edgar Wright made.
Oh yeah, he's great. His comedy is always so hilarious.
Yeah, he made Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim also, right?
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim's really good. Baby Driver, yeah, actually really good. Like the action in that is so good. The music is so good. The direction, like the way the music blends in with the action scenes so well.
Geez.
Yeah, they deal with that so perfectly. You love to see it. You can't get bored while watching Baby Driver.
I know every time they do something, it'll just put you on the edge of your seat. Even though you're not the one who's driving, like you're just sitting there, watch them drive.
100%, yeah. And I love the way they blend the music into the action.
I like John Hamm and Jamie Foxx as well. They're good.
They're all good. And yeah, Scott Pilgrim's one of my probably favorite 100 films of all time.
Oh yeah, I feel you on that.
The action is so good. It's probably the closest we're gonna get to a Western-made live-action adaptation of an anime film.
Yeah.
Like that's the one film where they actually committed and they were just like, you know what? We're gonna make this exactly as much like the comic as we can. They've never done that properly with an anime film for some reason, and it angers me so much.
I know. At the first, like, okay, they're doing like the gag or something, but the moment they try to show the seven deadly axes, I forgot like the titles of it, but where the evil axes start showing and then they battles. That's what the point was. Okay, they took it very this way, and I don't mind any single second of it.
Yeah, like it starts off like down to earth. You're right, and then it's the dude shows up and like punches him in the face and does like the Bollywood dance and then flies into the air,
the first one,
summons the succubuses. And you're like, oh, this is what this movie's gonna be like. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, with Chris Evans as well with the skateboards.
Yeah, it gets so wild. They deal with some of the X's in such funny ways.
Yeah, everyone casted so well, I think, in that movie. I was like, I can't really imagine anyone else doing that.
Nah, they did such a good job. I feel like we're never gonna get a movie like that again.
I know, it's a real one thing.
I'm gonna add my 5th favorite movie, a comedy movie, which is A Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh my god! I was holding myself. I was going to talk about it.
Oh,
It's
let's
one of
go.
my favorite. It's my top 10 as well.
Top 10 comedies or top 10 films of all time?
Both, I guess. I just
let's
really
go.
like the whole theme of if we talk about the cinematography first, like the whole symmetry is just like eye candy to you to like see the scenes.
Yeah, honestly, I
Like,
feel
it's-
like that's the same for pretty much every movie directed by Wes Anderson.
I
Like they're
know.
all put together so well. They have such a unique cinematography style where every time you get into a Wes Anderson film, you know it's got to be like well directed. If nothing else, it's got to be visually exciting. Oh man.
I think that was the first time I see like Willem Dafoe play like really like hilarious character.
It's funny, yeah, because
It's a very funny character.
he always does. Like, this is one of the ones that got into like my honorable mentions. It wasn't in my main ones, but one of my favorite films of all time is Devil's Advocate, where Willem Dafoe
Nice.
literally plays. No, wait, no, that wasn't Willem Dafoe. Don't worry about it. That's somebody else. That's The Godfather. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, Willem Dafoe.
Al Pacino.
Yeah, it's Al Pacino that plays Satan, and that is so good. Millie, jump in chat, damn it. I know you're here. Shit, that's my favorite film. Exactly, get in here. But yeah, Willem Dafoe like used to be typecasted as like the evil, scary kind of character. Like him as Green Goblin works so well.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't think no one could like pull out the personality like that. It's not just like portraying someone's being like a psychopath or something. It's about like have two personalities try to fight each other in the same body.
Yeah.
Without label themselves as psychopath.
Yeah, and both doing like really good with each other. Like he manages to sell himself both as like the family man and the scary, dangerous person that needs to be dealt with.
Oh.
But yeah, I love that movie. So much of it is just so good. Like you said, the cinematography is amazing. The characters are so over the top and zany, but you end up loving them so much as if they're part of your family anyway. Oh,
Yeah.
man. That one, and then I also feel like what kind of leveled up, not leveled up, but kind of spawned off of that one, The French Connection. I think it's called The French Connection, the newer one by Wes Anderson, which feels like it's a very similar idea about like a newspaper, but it's got like similar characters where they're all a bit over the top and a bit like larger than life, but you can't help but just love them so much. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Millie, you aren't joining us? We're gonna move on then.
Films like that really like makes you really attached to the characters.
And then you just don't want them to end. You end up rewatching them time and
know.
time again to remember
feels
some
like
of their
I don't
quotes.
want to be part of with the cast. Oh, House of Dogs. Millie mentioned House of Dogs. Yeah, it's really good one.
Oh, The French Dispatch. Thank you, not The French Connection. But yeah, Isle of Dogs is really good as well. That's definitely less comedy and more like drama, but yeah, Isle of Dogs is
The
amazing.
stop motion one, right?
Yeah, the stop motion one with like, the literal island dogs and the kid who goes to find his puppy on the island. Oh, that's so good. It's a really good adventure film, a really good family film. That and Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's what I like about Wes Anderson as well. Like the movies he makes feel so different from each other. He manages to keep his directorial style throughout all of them, but at the same time, he directs so many different things in so many different ways.
You just know that it's his film when you see one.
Yeah, you
I
know
think
he's
that's
gonna
like
make it
the
his way.
highest even as someone who makes art or product that people just know it's yours.
Yeah, if they can
Even
see it
though
and
no
just
one
instantly
mentioned
know,
it, yeah.
I feel like this is directed by this person. That's when you know you've got like a very unique style. Like I feel like that's the same for like Tim Burton, even though he does like dark comedies as well. Tim Burton movies are some of my favorites already, though. I don't think I have many in my list, but yeah, like he even did Batman his own way.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. I think from there I'm going to move on to top 5 horrors.
Ooh.
Do you have any favorite horror movies, Taka?
Don't really watch much horror though.
Oh, Oh wait, I also wanted to do my oh shit, my honorable mentions for comedies. And for these, I'll just like say them out loud, and I'll see if you know any of them as well, which include Game Night, which is a really funny one where a group of friends meet up to play like board games and stuff, but it turns into like a murder mystery, where it turns out that there's an actual murder and kidnapping happening, which is really good. Thor Ragnarok, another Taika Waititi one, freaking hilarious. I can't believe they took Thor from like the second floor, like kind of ruined Thor for me, and then the third Thor saved it. Made it comedy again and made it worth watching. Young Frankenstein, really old film. Mel Brooks.
Oh damn, Young Frankenstein. Yeah.
Young Frankenstein's so good. All of Mel Brooks' films are so good. Young Frankenstein's one that I could actually put in the list and be like, yo, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
It has Gene Wilder as well, right? The Willy Wonka guy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much. Naked Gun, the whole Naked Gun series.
Oh, I used to watch that with my father from the video rental.
That's what I mean. Like, these are so old as well. They've been out forever, and they're still hilarious.
It's the one with Leslie Nielsen, right?
Leslie Nielsen doing his damnedest. Yeah,
that's nostalgic.
I know, the nostalgia. And kind of similar kind of feeling like The Other Guys, which feels like a modern day Naked Gun, where it takes like modern day cop dramas rather than classic cop dramas and like redoes them. That one has, I forget, it definitely has Mark Wahlberg, and it has for a short while The Rock, and I think Samuel L. Jackson. It's just a really freaking hilarious movie about two cops that are terrible at their job trying to solve like an international level mystery. It's really good.
Oh, is it The Other Guys?
The Other Guys, yeah.
Yeah. It has Will Ferrell as well.
Will Ferrell, that's the other one, yeah, alongside Mark Wahlberg. So funny, him accidentally being a pimp. Will Ferrell being the ladies' man in the movie that everyone just loves. Oh my god, so good. This Is the End, which has a ton of celebrities in it, all playing themselves. Not sure if you've heard of that one, but it's got like Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jonah Hill.
Oh, I know, with Michael Cera as well.
Yeah, all playing themselves, where just like the apocalypse has happened. All the good people have been like raptured up to the heavens, and all the celebrities are just like left there exploring the world, where it's like preparing for the end times. It's great. Revelations has started to happen. It's so freaking hilarious. Oh man. And then like Office Christmas Party, which I don't think many people know. It's like one of the main reasons I found Office Christmas Party is because Kate McKinnon is in it. It's just a really funny movie about like this one office trying to work really hard to get everything set up, have a Christmas party, even though some political dramas happening in the backgrounds. 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street, really good. And one that I watched recently, which I'm not sure anyone would have heard of, Office Royale, also known as Hell's Garden, which is an over-the-top Japanese movie. I'm actually going to write this one down because I want people to look this up and watch the trailer.
Ooh, I haven't.
Okay. Office Royale, I'm just going to put this back to comedy. Office Royale is this really hilarious one where it's set in a world where office ladies go into work, but then while they also do their normal jobs of like doing OL stuff, working at an office, they also have like Yakuza level fights. Like I'm talking Yakuza the game, not Yakuza like in general. Yakuza the game where all of the office ladies will just like, rip off their sleeves and start beating the shit out of each other. Like different companies work as different gangs, and they try to fight each other to be the strongest like gang of office ladies. They have really good martial arts fights. They like jump through the air and beat the crap out of each other. It's ridiculous. It's so silly. Oh, I love it so much. I think it only came out like 2 years ago, but it instantly became like one of my favorite comedy movies to watch in the future. But yeah, do you have any favorite horror movies off the top of your head?
Horror, huh? Usually I don't really watch horror unless someone asks me to watch with them.
Okay, I'm actually a big fan of horror. I like watching horror quite a bit, so I have a long list of these. Oh, and someone in chat just said Rush Hour. I love Rush Hour too.
Oh, okay, Rush Hour, I love that.
Yeah, no, Rush Hour is incredible. Another body cop movie.
Instead of horror, I have this what is not creepy? A scary experience when I was back then.
Oh shit, let's go. You have a real life horror.
So for me back then it was kind of horror because of the whole experience that day. It's the fourth installment of Harry Potter, the Goblet of Fire. Wait for it.
I need to hear this.
So,
Yeah, how was this horror?
That's the first time I was asked to watch a movie in the midnight session. Okay.
Yeah.
So everything was closed except for the cinema, right?
Yeah.
And for no whatsoever reason, they put the trailers of Silent Hill during that slot.
I mean, it was a midnight showing. They were allowed to do that. All the kids would have been at home asleep.
I know, but nonetheless, I was not ready.
How old were you at this point?
It's old enough, but I'm still scared.
No, I feel
I'm not really good at horror because of so many paranormal things happening around the corner. Yeah, virtual Indonesia is a scary place, everyone.
I've heard some stories, to be fair.
Yeah, you might heard some stories. And then like watching like Harry Potter, like the first three, like it's still like okay, and then from the three and the fourth one and another, it's getting like really darker and darker and darker, right?
Yeah, 4 was very dark, especially the end of it.
With like someone dying, and the cramped, ever-changing maze, the not really clear lake with so many creatures that could grab you.
Yeah.
And then everything's finished. I got back home. Before I got back home, I need to go to the car, right? But everything's like really dark, even like the parking lot. There's no lights. I don't know why. And I got home. I got exactly what you expect: nightmares, and power outage as well.
Oh man, that was just like a bad night for you. Everything happened at once.
Yeah. So
oh man.
Yeah. So basically, Harry Potter 4 will be always imprinted in my head as
a horror movie.
Traumatic experience just for the whole night.
Let's go. Millie said, and I agree with this, you got to share them once Halloween comes, Taka. You should, have a Halloween like horror experience reveal. Because I've only had like one horror experience in my life, and it wasn't that scary.
Every day is Halloween here.
Every day when the sun comes down, the ghouls come out.
When the sun comes down,
the stars
you don't have things
out.
to work on, they will go get you.
I like that. Okay, my top 5 horror. I think I'm going to start with the most basic one that, everybody's seen this, let's be honest. But I feel like it reinvigorated the horror genre, at least in the West, which is The Conjuring.
Ah, yeah.
Did you watch this one?
I watched.
Oh,
yeah,
let's
that's one I watched.
Conjuring, is really good. It has like really good atmospheric horror, whereas a lot of horror, in the West at least, like downgraded itself to like try and get as many like jump scares as it could. Whereas The Conjuring has like this foreboding atmosphere the whole way through. Like it kicks off the story with the whole Annabelle story, which is creepy enough as it is. Lures you into like the horror atmosphere with that, and then introduces you to the family, and like then it starts to slowly build up again. I think it has some of the best scares of all time as well. Like one of the favorite moments is the mother playing hide and clap with her children. And she's like following the sound, trying to find it. And it's just that brilliant moment that she follows the clapping sound into the cupboard that we already knew was kind of scary, is about to like reach her hand into it, and then her daughter like surprises her from behind, is like, you didn't find me. It's like, oh my god, what was it making the clap then? And again, when she gets knocked down into the basement and the fire, the little match like keeps going out, she lights it again, and you just hear, now you hide and I'll clap. And just the hands come out of the darkness right in front of her, the light goes out, and she starts screaming. The Conjuring is so good. It builds up so well. It has so many jump scares while also keeping the atmospheric horror 100% constant. You feel for that family. You feel for both the exorcist. Well, he's not really an exorcist. the demonologist and the psychic. Yeah, it makes you love everyone in the story while it breaks them down emotionally and makes you feel bad about it. So good.
Yeah, I might not. I couldn't point out like the titles, but I think like the whole genre of Thailand's horror film is like the scariest for me. Right next with the Indonesian one.
I've never
because
actually
the Indonesian one, because here's the thing, when you watch it, it could happen to you. At least for me.
Yeah.
The Thailand horror movies is like really mess with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I've actually watched any Indonesian horror, but I remember watching some of the Thailand horrors. I can't think of any of the names right now either. I'm just looking through like lists of them, and none of them jump out at me. You're remembering them.
Me back then has this belief that Ghost is region locked. So watching like the Western one, it doesn't really like get me. It's okay, it's scary. But oh boy, when I do watch like the locals one, I couldn't close my eyes during the night.
I think it's Korean horror that gets me pretty well as well. Like Korean horror has such a good atmosphere to it that really smashes me over the head.
And also aside from like the real move directed movie, sometimes it gets me more the one that like formatted like a what is it? Is it kind of like a mockumentary?
Yes.
Like because it feels really like it felt more real.
Yeah, when it's like recorded with a decent level. You know what? Number 2. Grave Encounters. You know this one too?
Yeah, I know that one.
Oh shit, you know quite a few horror movies. Let's go.
Yeah, I was a victim of someone dragging me to watch with them.
Oh, I love Grave Encounters so much.
Like, but I don't mind it though. It's just that it was never my first intention to watch. But if someone asks me, I will watch with them.
I feel that. Like you get dragged to things and you're like, okay, I guess I'm watching this now. Yeah, Grave Encounters is so good. It's like a found footage film that's stylized as like one of the YouTube kind of ghost faces kind of moments. Like they get everything lined up. You can tell they're actors from the get-go, but they like stand in front of the camera in that big dramatic way and do the whole like, yeah, we're here at this haunted asylum to see if we find any ghosts. We're gonna have some grave encounters. Like it's so over the top, it's so silly, and then it turns out that the asylum they actually go into, even though all these people are actors, they have like a fake medium as well who's supposed to be like the real deal, making fun of the whole thing, having fun with it. And yeah, they get into the asylum and shit actually starts to happen. Like they try to leave in the morning and the door is just gone, and then cameras start getting moved around, they start seeing things. Oh, it's so good. It just goes more and more wild as time goes on. The drama just hits the level. Oh yeah, because then everything starts haunting them, and yeah, the entire asylum becomes a labyrinth, and the one person gets kidnapped and has brain surgery on him. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, every film that use like found footage format, like whenever it turns into first person, that nothing can protect me from whatever threats will come.
Exactly. When it's done like that, it just feels so much more real. Especially when like you start a horror movie and the first thing you see is based on real event. It's like, oh no, it really happened.
Oh no, it happened to someone.
So good. Oh man, but yeah, I love Grave Encounters. The atmosphere of it is great. The direction is great. It starts off like making you feel like it's more of a comedy than anything else, but then it just, yeah, shit hits the fan and it gets so real. I love when a movie
does that, where we took them lightly at first.
Yeah. It makes it seem like, oh, this is just going to be a fun time. It's probably going to be more of a comedy than anything. Nah. And then yeah, shit gets serious.
That's what happened with Jojo Rabbit, I guess.
Yeah, Jojo. Oh, there was a time I was thinking about talking about that, because like the different ways that like Mel Brooks took like trying to make Hitler into a comedy, and then Taika Waititi took trying to make Hitler into a comedy, where it was like the general idea where Mel Brooks was just like trying to make a joke out of him continuously and show show him as like a silly character that people could laugh at rather than take seriously, to try and make fun out of a very dark thing. Jojo Rabbit does that as well, tries to make fun out of a dark thing, while also like expanding that and being like, oh, but here's how dark and sinister it is, and it's actually only a funny thing because the kid has been brainwashed his whole life. And like, here's the dark reality of it. Taika Waititi did such a good job at that, of making like the comedy really good, but then shit also seriously hit the fan towards the end.
That's the real definition of like the Simpson meme. I came here to laugh, not to feel.
I came here to laugh, not to feel. Yeah, and then it's like, no, you will cry as well. You will remember the fact that this is something serious.
You will remember those shoes.
Oh my god, yeah, the shoes just swaying side to side. That's deep, man. That's deep. Yeah, when shit hits the fan in that film, it really hits the fan. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a cute little comedy. It's another Taika Waititi one. I love Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. At least, I won't talk about the ending. I'll jump on to number 3, which I will go for.
What is it, number 3?
Oh, another basic bitch answer. Let's go for it. It from 2017.
Ooh.
The remake of It, Part 1.
Part 1.
Yes. In fact, yeah, I'll put Part 1. Part 2 is good as well, but Part 1, the horror in It Part 1 is just incredible. You never stop being terrified. The cinematography is great. It starts immediately with Georgie getting absolutely murked. Never approach strangers, Georgie. You should have learned that day one. And yeah, the town. Then the town just ignoring it. And my god, the cinematography for the horror scenes is so good. When you see fucking It doing his little clown dance, moving around from side to side, and the camera like stays perfectly level, so that you're always meeting him eye to eye, even though his head and body are moving so much. The entire world is swirling around, but you're trapped in his eyes. Oh god, that's done so well. It makes you so uncomfortable. It makes you so unsettled. And yeah, the horror for like every single person, there's got to be something that gets you there. Whether it's the very realistic thing of Beth like being assaulted by people, or like the very dark things of just like, I don't like that portrait of the woman that looks long and crooked and the proportions are off. And oh my god, the person who's actually lost a brother, thinking that his brother's coming after him. All of that is so fucking good. Everything is perfect. Sorry, you go ahead. Oh, Tucker's AFK right now.
No. I was like, clowns.
Oh, you don't like clowns?
Oh boy, clowns.
Clowns are good, man. Did you ever watch the season of American Horror Story with clowns in it?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite horror clowns.
Yeah, I love head situations with clowns.
I
you
love
just don't
clowns.
know. You just, yeah. It could be like the most like pure and sinister people ever. And sometimes could be like the sweet tooth from Twisted Metal kind of clown.
Oh my god, yeah.
You just never know.
Honestly, yeah. Clowns, I don't know when anybody ever thought that clowns were cute. Like, to me, clowns have always been creepy. Maybe that's, yeah, maybe it was just like clowns were cute back before the 80s kind of thing, before the 70s, I don't know. Either way, they've always, like, since I've been alive, been considered a creepy ass thing that I don't know why anybody would invite one into their house, let alone for their child. What the fuck are people thinking?
On their little backyard with them, with just their child and the clown. What could go wrong?
And hey, the clown's like a child entertainer. I can leave my child alone with this guy. It'll be fine. Oh god. So good on Stephen King making them as creepy as they should have been from the beginning. I think the next one I'll do, another found footage one that really got me, a Japanese one called Cairo. No, not Cairo. Cairo's in my honorable mentions. Whoops. Noroi, The Curse. I'm not sure how many people would have heard of this one, but it's a found footage one where like a group of people are essentially doing a documentary and following this idea of a curse that chases, that like possesses people and slowly drives them mad and kills them. It's so good.
Yeah, I think I've heard this one. Yeah.
It's good.
I
haven't
watched it yet.
There
I should, I think, now that you mention it.
There aren't many like jump scares in it, which is good. Like, it's mostly atmospheric horror for like the first
like
full
it
solid
should
hour.
be.
Exactly. You just occasionally like see a creepy thing like coming at you from a window, staring out at you, and you're like, what was that? Like it will appear and then disappear. Like, yeah, people are talking about the mask. The mask that starts appearing around everywhere in all the different shots is so good. It just builds up bit by bit. The curse starts to inflict, and then yeah, again, shit hits the fan. Like, oh man, found footage ones are always so good for that.
I like when like they set up like the surroundings, the environment, and everything makes you really scared, but it doesn't do cheap tricks on it to deliver that. It took craft to make people scared just from the atmosphere alone, I think.
Yeah, and it makes it way better in my opinion. Like I like things like that, like Silent Hill, master of atmospheric horror compared to jump scares. Like you compare Silent Hill to Five Nights at Freddy's. I would take Silent Hill every time. Five Nights at Freddy's is just jump scares and getting you ready for jump scares. Silent Hill is just like the general foreboding. There's something deadly around every turn. You don't know when it's going to come
out for you just to finish you, but you still don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. Finally, number 5. What do I have here? Oh, another pretty basic Western one. I think pretty much everyone would have seen, but one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Sinister.
Ooh, Sinister.
Oh, you not heard of this one?
Haven't.
Okay, this is a really good one where
I think I've seen the posters. Like it's the one with like the gray with the walls, isn't it?
Yeah, the creepy gray-faced man.
Yeah.
So Sinister is about a writer who is trying to write a crime novel about a series of stories where a child gets kidnapped and the rest of the family gets gruesomely murdered. That's been traveling around the country. He moves into the house where one of the murders actually happened, and there he finds a projector and a bunch of film rolls which actually show somebody recording the family before they were murdered, like how they're happy and just with each other, and then the aftermath. It shows like how they were murdered, and throughout it all he starts to figure out that actually there's something supernatural going on here, and there's this creepy figure with like a gray mask face that's in all the footage of the murders, and also slowly starts to interact with the real world and start coming at him.
Oh, is it the one with Ethan Hawke?
It is the one with Ethan Hawke, yeah.
Yeah. I think they showed on TV, but I didn't really watch it. But I remember there's Ethan Hawke in it.
Yeah, it was really good. And somebody was talking about, I only liked number 1. There is no sequel. There is no Sinister 2. No. Sinister 1 is a really good single movie, and it's the only Sinister movie there is. Don't worry about it. Same for Grave Encounters. Really good movie. There is no sequel.
Have you watched like, the latest Ethan Hawke movie with, what is it called? The Black Phone?
I did watch The Black Phone. I watched that, yeah, quite a while ago. Because it was...
How was it?
It's okay. It's interesting. I felt like there was going to be a bigger twist than there was at the end. I was really hoping, like I imagined a big twist that never came. But yeah, it's creepy enough as it is. It's a very like, the supernatural parts are pretty simplistic in it. Most of it's just like a down to earth, like, oh god, this is terrifying because a serial killer has a child kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, Black Phone, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. And then when it comes to...
Someone mentioned Sinister 2 is just for me.
Exactly. It doesn't exist, guys. Don't even worry about it. We're just going to put HM here for honorable mentions, and I'm just going to throw them out. Let me just copy and paste these. I don't care. Mention some of them.
What was the one with what's the one with the demons looks like Darth Maul?
Oh, that's Insidious. Insidious is actually pretty good. I'm gonna add that too. Insidious is pretty funny.
I remember it. It's not being scary. It's not really like scary to me. I just remember it's hilarious.
Yeah, because I remember like thinking, oh, that monster looks really creepy, and then you see it in the movie and you're like, oh, that's a bit over the top. I'm not sure if I could take that seriously anymore. There's definitely a lot more than this as well. But I love A Tale of Two Sisters. It's a creepy, I think it's Korean horror. I can't actually remember. But it's two sisters going back to their parents' house. And Wreck, yeah. Wreck was another good found footage one. The original, obviously, the Spanish one. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum was really good. Conjuring 2, yeah, I added that because, yeah, Conjuring is great. The Conjuring 2 is pretty damn good. I'll say pretty damn good. Cairo / The Pulse. That's a good one where there's like a computer virus kind of ghost. Like it starts in computers, but it affects people in the real world and fucks with them. It's really good. Like, I don't think there's been a film quite like that where it's been so digital. I'll also add One Missed Call because of that. One Missed Call has like good general horror atmosphere. Yeah.
How about The Shining?
The Shining isn't really scary to me.
It is. It is now that you mention it.
I'll add that there because it's one of the best films made of all time, and it's another Stephen King one. It's kind of horror, but it feels like more psychological horror, I guess. Yeah, it's a bit too psychological for me to take the actual horror aspect seriously. Same for like Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep gets a bit too fantasy for me. I guess it depends on the way it's directed.
It is more psychological, I think. Yeah.
Jacob's Ladder is one that I feel like a lot of people need to watch a lot more. Because Jacob's Ladder has a lot of the same feeling of Silent Hill, where it's, I think, they're veterans from some war who have come back to like modern life, and they're just trying to find a way to survive in modern life, but they're being essentially haunted by literal demons from their past. And the storyline from there goes really, really deep, really interesting. It gets really good. What is Signing? Oh, The Signing. Wait a minute.
Oh, you typoed it.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry, guys. Anyway, there's some like horror related movies that I didn't put in here as well because they technically count more as sci-fi or action. Did I put? 1 minute. Where did I? Oh, did I not put? You know what? I'll put it here then. Crap. What's that movie called? It's another found footage one that involves a kaiju.
Wait.
Cloverfield.
Cloverfield.
I don't really know if that counts as a horror. It's like found footage monster movie, but I'll count it there for now. Cloverfield was really good.
I mean, if it happens to me, it could be damn scary to me.
It would definitely be a horror, yeah. Yeah, Wreck a really good like found footage horror movie. It's like zombies-ish, zombie adjacent kind of thing. It Follows is really good. It's like an STD horror movie, which is really interesting. As Above, So Below, in fact, and The Descent, I was going to say, yeah, I really don't like cave scenes. I really don't like spelunking. That shit is terrifying to me. Why people would put themselves underneath the earth in tiny enclosed spaces, I don't know. Descent is like a monster movie where they're surrounded by things that have adapted to live in cave systems. It's really good. Really horror based, and then a lot of action as well. As Above, So Below, just shit really hits the fan. You get like into all kind of like Masonic and transmutation, like alchemy kind of stuff, and then there's like let's not spoil anything, but that the storyline in that one goes wild and is really fun. The Vitch, I'll make that non-capital so it doesn't look weird. Really good.
Have you seen like the
atmospheric horror?
The Medium.
The Medium. I don't think I remember that one.
It's a kind of I think it's last year. It was a Thailand a Thai kind of
South Korean
founded footage as well.
Oh no, I haven't actually heard of this. Oh, it has a really good rating. No, I hadn't heard of this one. It looks interesting. Holy crap. The posters for it are good. Yeah, I think I will try that. That looks good. I was just going to add... Hereditary never really scared me as a horror film. It was more... Like, I saw a lot of people saying Hereditary, but to me, that was more... It was more like... It was drama-based horror. It turns into a horror film, but to me, that's more like... It's too quiet. So I'm going to go with, instead, the other one by the same person, which is... Midsommar. Which is another really good horror film. One Missed Call, The Shining. Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good list. There you go. That's like all of the horrors. The Mist, I didn't really like You know what? I did like the movie for The Mist. That's another Stephen King one where mist comes down and like starts taking people. People hide in a grocery store and there's like society breaks down basically with like religious fanatics as well as like people trying to deal with it seriously. There's monsters coming out of the mist. It's very Silent Hill. I wished the TV series had done better than it did. The movie was okay. I've heard the novel was better than any of them. Paranormal Activity, really good, really dark. The first one at least. The rest of them kind of got more ridiculous.
It's get really funny the more the sequel goes. I just can't really see it as serious as the first one.
And Millie loves Anna Taylor-Joy. It's just like my favorite horror movie, The Witch, with Anna Taylor-Joy. Oh man.
I understand though.
Yeah.
She's a great actor.
The Exorcist never really got me. No love for
Is
The
it
Thing.
the one with the
Thing was good.
barfing?
The Thing I'd consider a sci-fi, same as like Alien. Is it the one with what?
Is it the one with the like somersaulting, barfing?
Yeah, the child's name is Reagan, and yeah, there's the actual like exorcist who comes into the room with her, and yeah, she like her head rotates the whole way around, and yeah, she vomits like pea soup on people. To me, I think that was just like too old for me. Like The Exorcist, Poltergeist, they were both like they scared me as a child, and nowadays I look back at them and they're like, oh, that's cute. Like the effects just aren't quite there. Exorcism of Emily Rose, pretty good. Babadook, I kind of don't like Babadook. I know a lot of people like Babadook. It's kind of boring to me. The kid's fucking annoying. If I was that parent, I would have just been like, oh, this kid's possessed. Bye. I'm sorry. Not my problem anymore. Get out of here. Yeah, I don't like Babadook. But yeah, that'll do for top 5 horror. I want to go into top 5 fantasy. I feel like you might be a fan of fantasy as well.
Me myself is a fantasy.
There we go.
What's with the one with Bruce Campbell? Oh, Evil Dead.
Oh, the Evil Dead. You see, that's another one where it doesn't feel like when I want to watch a horror movie. It doesn't feel like horror.
It's like when I see it's an action, I think.
Yeah, it's the same like when people say that like Train to Busan is horror. Pretty much any zombie movie has too much fun with it. It doesn't feel like horror because there's no real feeling of horror. It's more like if you're smart, you're going to avoid zombies, no problem. Sure, they may eat your face. It's the same as like gory ones. Like I watched, what's the one? I watched like Hostel, Human Centipede, Tusk, those kinds of like gory, everything is pain, everything is suffering, Martyrs. Those don't feel like horrors to me. They're more just like gross out movies that I enjoy watching at times. Like I enjoy watching like the disgusting things, visual effects that people can do. Hostel is one of my best ones for that.
I couldn't see like Evil Dead or like zombie film as scary, but like the Korean Parasite is scary for me because of the thing would happen to like any household and no one wouldn't even know. It's not like the film, but it's like the idea of like the event. That's
interesting. Because yeah, Parasite's one of those ones where I didn't manage to get it into any of my lists despite it being like just an incredible all-round film. I guess it would be like in my top 5 drama. I just don't have a top 5 drama. Because yeah, that's what it is more than anything. It's like an interesting look into society and classism, and it's directed so freaking well where there's always like a line divide in the rich and the poor. The poor people are always constantly like going downhill when they're traveling. The rich people are always going uphill. Like it's everything about that is done so perfectly, but it's just
I think the triggers for me is when the flood happens and like the rich people just like thank God it's raining or something. And we get flashed into when they need to deal the poor family needs to deal with the flood and everything's like ruined.
Yeah, the rich people are just happy for the rain, the poor people are like struggling through it, and then for like days after that the rich people are complaining just about the fact that the poor people smell moldy and they look kind of disgusting, and maybe we don't want them around us right now. They're like doing their best just to survive at that point, and the rich people are like, but your smell insults me. You smell poor. Yuck. That shit. Oh god.
That's the switch.
They do such a good job with that. Parasite is done so well from beginning to end. I don't get why they're doing an American remake. They don't need one. The director talked about the fucking 2-inch separation of subtitles, and then yeah, let's make an American remake. Oh, fun. Do you have any fantasy movies that you love, like, incredibly?
I think I couldn't stop talking about Harry Potter. Yeah.
Harry Potter, that's fair. That's actually in my honorable mentions for this one. Harry Potter, yeah.
At this point, it was too personal to me. Like,
I feel that.
With my sister, with my father as well. Like everyone's like dragging me into it since
Constantly, yeah. It's part of your childhood at this point. Yeah. That's the thing. Harry Potter is, such a phenomenon at this point. Harry Potter, I absolutely love. It's 8 movies. Different ones are at different like levels of quality. Like, I feel like the quality of the movies grew with the audience as they watched them, and so did like the rating of them. Like, the first one is just a children's fantasy movie. Sure, Voldemort's a bit scary, but it's not too bad. And the second one has like the giant snake and giant spiders, and that's a little creepy. Then the third one deals a lot with death and fucked up shit and time travel, and it's like, oh. And then the fourth one is where shit.
Someone actually died.
Yeah, the fourth one, somebody, like a pretty important character actually dies, and you've got like the return of Voldemort, and directed so well where shit just hits the fan.
The awakening as like.
And then 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Varying levels of goodness, but all really good. They get really adult, and even though like the Harry Potter kids are technically still only 15, 16, 17, and 18, it feels like they really grow up. And I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah, the actors, it feels like the characters grows with you.
Exactly.
You feel you saw them grow and develop as a characters and as a person.
Yeah, so if you're at the right kind of age for that, then they grew up with you, and because of that, it will always be a part of you no matter what. Which is why I'm really looking forward to the new Hogwarts game. Oh man, I'm sad I couldn't get like the 3-day early version. I didn't even want anything else. It was just being able to play it 3 days early. I probably would have taken 3 days off and just finished it. One of the classics ones, which I'll probably make my first one, has to be the Dark Crystal. This is a very interesting one. I'm not sure if many people would have seen this, which is why I'm putting this in my number 1. Again, none of these are actually numbered like 1 to 5. The Dark Crystal is like a classic one. I think it was in the 80s. It's made by Jim Henson, who did like the Muppets.
I remember the toys, I think.
Yes, it gets so fucking creepy.
The one with the hairy ones.
Yeah, the giant bird fucked up creature thing.
Yeah. It's so messed up.
I forget the names of all the creatures, but you have like the really cute, they have like really pale faces. They have like almost elf ears. The main characters where they're like sweet, adorable beings who just want to be nice. Then you have the giant bird creatures that feast on them and use them as an energy source and to stay immortal forever. Then there's, thank you, chat. There's the Age of Resistance, which, wait, is the Age of Resistance the TV show or the game? Either way, I watched the TV show on Netflix, and they recreated all of the scenes so well, all of the creatures so well. The fact that they're still able to do puppetry at that level, I can't believe they made such a brilliant first season of that. Had all of the puppets made and ready to go and to keep going for more stories, and we're just like, nah, we're done with it. That hurts so much. The Dark Crystal is so good. It's actually a bit of a horror movie as well, but it is like very fantasy, very high fantasy, where they've invented their own world. They've invented a whole like group of different creatures that work together very well. It's so good. I love Dark Crystal so much. If only they'd done a second season of the TV show. We'll put my number 2 as an obvious one that I think everyone can agree with, Princess Mononoke.
Whoa.
And this is another basic bitch answer where it's just like, come on. It's Princess Mononoke. Everyone agrees Princess Mononoke is one of the best films ever made. A lot of people would argue it's the best Ghibli film made. A lot of people would argue about it being one of the best films in general ever made. And yeah, it's just about the idea of industrialization versus the old school, like listening to the old gods. But of course, in that world, it is a fantasy world where there are actual forest spirits that humans are contending with and fighting for the sake of themselves becoming stronger and industrializing and literally overcoming God to become the rulers of the earth. which is really good and has a lot to say about the way we treat our environment and everything, and also just has a really good romance and fantasy plot going on. So good.
Oh, fantasy. You mentioned to a Tim Burton, right?
Tim Burton?
I like the one with Johnny Depp and Dark Shadows.
Oh, Dark Shadows. Okay. When you said Johnny Depp, I thought you were going to say Edward Scissorhands. I was like, oh.
That's too, but the one that that goes into my head first is the Dark Shadows one. I think it's because of the commercials. Commercials really catchy.
Dark Shadows, yeah. I never actually watched that. I remember there was a TV show way back in the day, but I never watched the new movie of the Tim Burton version of Dark Shadows. So it was good. That's good. I didn't actually know. Tim Burton is great though, and Johnny Depp is incredible.
It's a funny, fantasy thrill kind of thing.
I think for the next one,
this, I think.
I'll go with one we actually did a watch along for. I'll go with The Legend of Lord Shao Hei.
Oh, you did a watch along with that?
Yeah.
Nice one.
This is one my chat will recognize, and it's one that I don't think many people internationally know. It's a Chinese animated film, a Donghua, which is about a little cat spirit named Shao Hei, who just essentially his forest gets destroyed by humans. Industrialization again, let's go. And so he has to travel around and find a new home for himself. It's like a Shansha based story, so there's so many spirits just coming out of the water, coming out of the trees, coming out of the flowers, based on animals, based on everything, and one human who's able to fight them all and act as a police officer and mediating between the worlds of humans and spirits. It's really good. It's so good. Top 5 industrialization. Hey, the Dark Crystal is an industrialization. Fight me. Oh, but I loved The Legend of Lord Shao Hei. It was so good. You know what? We'll get into not industrialization whatsoever. A fantasy comedy. The Princess Bride. How about that? One of the funniest films ever made. One of the most quotable movies ever made. And just in general, a really good fantasy. Based? Yes. My name is Inigo de Tura. You killed my father. Prepare to die. There's so many good quotes you could take from that film and just keep with you forever. Inconceivable. What'd you say?
You can make an entire book just from the quotes.
Yeah, it's so good. They actually have the book version of it at the bookstore that I visit all the time, and I've been very tempted to buy it. Just because it's a beautiful leather bound one, just like the book in the movie is, and I'm like, do I get it? Do I get it? As you wish. Exactly. I'm those words, I don't think you know what they mean. So many moments from that film are just okay, that's sticking with me forever. The fight scenes in it are really good. It's all really silly. It's got a strong classic romance where it's a bit silly and over the top, but you can't help supporting it and enjoying it. Get it for the aesthetics? Maybe. We'll see.
That one slot in the shelves.
Exactly. Just fill it up. At least that way I'll have The Princess Bride. We'll see. But that one, and one of my favorite ones as well, which I don't think many people would have heard of, Song of the Sea, another animated one. Song of the Sea is one of the few Irish animated movies that there is, and it tells the story of a Selkie, a girl who can turn into a seal, and her brother who cannot turn into a seal, who has to essentially travel through the modern day Ireland as well as the fairy tale Ireland. There's all the spirits are still around in Ireland, all the fairies, all the Duana Shi, and he has to travel around the world interacting with the different spirits from old times to try and save his sister, to try and turn her back into a human girl and protect her from an evil spirit. It's like Book of the Cows. Yeah, the same studio made that, Book of the Cows, and one of my honorable mentions, which I will add in real quick, which is, because the Book of the Cows was the weakest of those three for me, but that one and Wolfwalkers, both incredible.
Oh, I just see the clips of it. The arts look really nice. Yeah,
the artwork's really, especially for Wolfwalkers. I actually bought they released a Good. An art book, like a book of the artwork from Wolfwalkers, and their animation in that was so good. It's based off of like classic Irish art from like the old ages, so it has like the same patterns that they used to use, the same like Celtic knots. They did that a lot in Book of the Cows as well. Book of the Cows has some of my favorite like art style pieces for how dramatized it was, how artistic they do things, how it's based off of like impressionism rather than realism. But yeah, when it comes to like, yeah, I preferred Song of the Sea. Song of the Sea is my favorite of that because it has like a perfect like Spirited Away almost feeling story where a boy's just trying to save his sister. But yeah, the mixture of like the human realm and the fairy realm is done so well. It's so good. Buchan touching grass, going to the local bookstore. Exactly. That's the only time I deal with it. You have the art book? Yeah, I got the art book for Wolfwalkers. It's still available to buy online. And it's really beautiful. It's got so many good pieces in it. They never made it into the movie as well. The designs and like the different like ways they built it up based on historical things is so good. And my other ones, yeah, Harry Potter. I don't have many honorable mentions in here. I'm gonna let chat like fill this in for us as well. Harry Potter, Dragonheart. Hello. Dragonheart's great.
How about Pan's Labyrinth?
Narnia. Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth.
Mary Poppins counts as fantasy, right?
I suppose it would. You know what? We could put that in there. Even though that pissed off the author of Mary Poppins to no end. Does Final Fantasy count? Final Fantasy. Well, I guess there's 2 movies for Final Fantasy. I wouldn't really include either of them in my like top movies of all time, though. Neither Advent Children nor the one based off of A Kingsglaive. But they're good.
The original Wizard of Oz.
Ooh, yo, we can put that in. I haven't thought about that movie in forever.
It's an old one.
True. Spiderwick Chronicles. You wanted to add Dark Shadows?
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. What, the animated film?
Tim Burton as well. Oh, the live action, I mean.
Oh, the Tim Burton one.
Like,
okay.
Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham as usual.
My last one was Neverending Story. And no, I didn't include Lord of the Rings because I didn't include anything in like my genre films that was in my top 10 films of all time. Miss Peregrine's House. I didn't enjoy Miss Peregrine's House personally. No Lord of the Rings. Like I said, that's in my top 10 of all time. Fantastic Beasts? Hell no, that's not in my top movies. Hellboy? I'll add that one. You liked Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
What is it? I expect more.
That's what I mean.
I thought they were going to explore about the damn beast, man.
Exactly. It's called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. They're just like,
why did they go to Dumbledore route again?
It's like, but what we know what you really want. We want, you want the gay story about Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Come on. And we're like, no, we wanted Fantastic Beasts.
I won like 9 hours of just Newt doing research on Beast.
What I wanted was like an all-powerful beast that actually threatens the entire world. I wanted like a god-level dragon or like a giant phoenix or like a chimera that comes out into the real world and tries to kill everyone, that was like hidden away in some island but got chased out by humans. Godzilla kaiju level. Wizards have to stop it and try to stop humans from like ruining everything as well and then erase their memory. That's what I wanted from a Fantastic Beast and Where to Find Them.
The moment they gave us the premise of like, oh, we're going to do Newt Scamander's film. Whoa, really? They're going to fill my niche? No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. They did their own thing.
You can just hear from my voice.
Yeah, how
like
upset you are.
Yeah, and how upset I was.
That's the thing. They're not terrible movies. They're just also not great movies.
It is.
Oh, somebody said.
Why you even put Fantastic Beasts in the title?
True.
Oh, thinking about it again makes me really sad.
Somebody said Wolf Children. I had that in my list somewhere. I don't remember where. Yeah, I'll go with that. The Boy and the Beast as well, then. The Boy and the Beast. The Wolf Children. I think I have that in my like list of things that I didn't know where to put them because they're not quite romance, but they're more drama than fantasy, I'd say. But yeah, we'll put that fantasy. That works for me.
Oh, Van Helsing.
Van Helsing was actually really good, and
Yeah.
There was some other one about some immortal dude who couldn't die. That wasn't Van Helsing, but he had like a similar hat. I remember like he was fighting supernatural creatures for some reason. He was like cursed to immortality or something. It was really good.
It's the one with Hugh Jackman, right?
Yes. Yeah, Van Helsing, definitely up there.
They like to one of the local TV back then really like to play Van Helsing during the New Year's after like the clocks past the midnight one. They like play Van Helsing. So I remember watching Van Helsing years through years.
Yeah, it used to like always show on Film 4 in the UK as well. They really pushed that film hard. And somebody said Coraline. Coraline's incredible. I mainly stuck to high fantasy. I think that's why I've left all of these out. Kubo and the Two Strings is really good. Yeah, those should all be on here, but they're not. So I'm just gonna hide that for now. We're gonna move on. These are all good fantasy films. We've done comedy, we've done fantasy. Got sci-fi, romance, and action. You want action?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Any action movies that jump out at you?
First Kingsman.
Yo, that's actually on my list.
Yes.
We'll throw that one on number 5 so I don't have to type out the question marks. Is that on my top 5? No, that's an honorable mention for me. Damn. I knew that was on my list somewhere. Crap.
So many good action movie. It's understandable.
There's so freaking many. But yeah, Kingsman, definitely up there. Why do my text turn black? That doesn't work. But yeah, it's one of the best. Like, it has some of the best action scenes of all time. Especially, oh my god, the church, exactly.
Oh god, I could talk about that all day.
The church fight is so damn. Any martial arts fight that involves bullets and guns is incredible. You know what? That's why I'm immediately switching this over and saying number 1. Fuck it, John Wick.
Yes, my man.
John Wick, best action movie, pretty much that I've ever seen. Like, the fighting in that one is so, like, direct. It's so intense. It's so fast-paced. The man brings a bullet to a martial arts fight, shoots people from long range through the head, and then brings it up close, beats the shit out of them, and then kills them with a pen, with a bullet, with a chair, with his fists, by throwing them out a window, all because they killed his fucking dog. It's fucking amazing. Yeah, number 2 and number 3 have always gotten better.
The damn reasons.
I know, yeah, the reasons are so simple.
What did you do? The car? No, you did not do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that it's just a dude who wants his car.
I like it.
And his dad just immediately being like, Baba Yaga, you fucked up my son.
You what have you done? What have you done?
Just instantly being like, oh, my son's gonna die. Well, fuck. Just like asking John Wick, please don't kill my son. I get he was stupid. I get what he did. He's still my boy. Oh man, it's so good. I love that movie. The fight scenes, impeccable. That's what I mainly judged my top 5 action for, was just how great are the fight scenes, how silly are they, how over the top are they. Which will probably bring me, oh shit, I cheated. This is where I stole Hero from, so I need to trade that with something. Also for fantasy, I just thought of it, but How to Train Your Dragon, that series of movies is really good.
Toothless.
Oh yeah, Toothless is amazing. This probably shouldn't be in my top 5, but because I stole Hero from my top 5 action, I'm gonna throw in a film that reminds me of what we're doing later in the week on Thursday, playing EDF. Starship Troopers.
Starship Trooper!
Starship Troopers is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that there's still a debate constantly going on in the world with people asking, is it an actual like serious propaganda film, or is it a comedy film that takes the piss out of propaganda films?
Based off other films, yeah.
Yeah, nobody could ever be quite sure, like, which way does it go? Oh man, but I love that film so much. It's just a very basic story, a sci-fi setting where humans are like a couple like probably decades into the future. A high school kid is finishing high school. In this universe, you have to join the army to even become like a citizen and register yourself to vote. Otherwise, you're just like an academic person who studies and stuff but doesn't get a say in what happens in the world. But everybody's like super materialistic. Then bugs attack the Earth, and they decide to go to war with the bugs and go out in space to track them down and hunt them down. And
now that you mention it, it's EDF, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically EDF, except this time we go after the bugs rather than the bugs coming after us.
Yeah.
Oh man, but it's so good from there because whether it is like a serious propaganda film or it's just taking the piss out of them, like it does so well with the whole like leading you in one direction in every narrative constantly. It constantly like focuses on the soldier's side of the story. It focused on the scientists, not trying to examine like how the bugs think and what they do, why they act the way they do, and just trying to find out the best ways to kill them. So here you have the famous line like, the only good bug is a dead bug, which is literally why I ended up naming the group chat when I invited Luca, Vox, and Suddy to play EDF with me. I was like, okay, this group chat is called The Only Good Bug is a Dead Bug. But yeah, no, it's such a good film for enjoying that kind of feeling. Just the silly old school propaganda flicks, just over the top, like militaristic propaganda and just silliness. Dread is up there. Is that in my top 5? No.
Have you watched The Raid?
I have watched The Raid and I love The Raid. The Raid has some of the best martial arts. That's actually in one of my honorable mentions as well. Like the aggression in that movie. One of the scenes that I remember the most is when he's beating the crap out of a few people, like moving down a corridor, and he gets to one dude like right in the middle of a doorway and like punches him in the face like 3 times, and then as he starts to fall down the side of the doorway, he like smacks his head into the side with his fist like 3 times as he's collapsing. Oh, it's so good. He hits him 3 times as he's falling. Love it. Raid is incredible.
Like the fact with The Raid as well, because it's happens in here. When I watched it, I had the idea of, whoa, that thing could happen like in the old apartment back from my home.
Oh shit! You lived in that dangerous a place.
I mean, everywhere's dangerous here, so yeah.
That's why I'm also going to add the Dredd right now as well, the remake of Judge Dredd, where they just move into a mega city apartment, and oh my god, they fight their way through the entire apartment.
I forgot the name. The one that play Butcher from The Boys.
Was that Butcher? You're shitting me.
Dredd, right? Judge Dredd, right?
Oh my god, it was Carl Urban.
It's Carl Urban, yeah.
Paul Urban's been in so many of my favorite movies. Okay, I didn't know that. I knew it was directed by fucking Alex Garland. Well, no, he did the screenplay. Alex Garland, who went on to make fucking some of my favorite movies. What did he make? Ex Machina, Annihilation, Never Let Me Go. All incredible. In fact, some of those are in my sci-fi list. But Alex Garland also worked on Dredd, which is kind of wild to me. Yeah, I didn't know that was Carl Urban. I knew that Lena Headey was in it as the main bad guy. Fucking, what's her name from Game of Thrones? The head Lannister.
Yeah.
Domhnall Gleeson's in it. Like, it's got a really good cast. The movie's really good. It's just pure action continuously the whole way through. And it takes, again, it adapts the Dredd story like way better than I think the classic one did, which is a bit not over the top. Ex Machina Pod. Hell yeah. Cersei, thank you. I couldn't remember the Lannister's name. I'm stuck in like the new Lannisters right now, watching the House of the Dragon. But yeah, number 3. This is a basic one. Everyone knows I love this. Fucking Ip Man.
Oh, which one?
Number 1. Number 1's my favorite. Yeah. Number 1, where it just does the basic storyline of like, them being invaded, him fighting off people just to keep his family having any food whatsoever. the action in that one is so, Wing Chun is such an interesting fight style. The speed with which Donnie Yen moves in those scenes is so good. The fact that he's able to punch people like 12 people in 12 times in half a second is crazy. Oh man.
Which is the one that they fight on the top of the table? Is it the second one or the first one?
When? Because they technically do that in the first one a few times.
Oh, the one that he confronts like the grandmasters.
Oh, wait, I think that's number 2. I think that's number 2.
Okay.
I think number 3 is when the American wants to box him, or maybe that's number 4.
Oh, that's the one with Mike Tyson.
I don't remember. I don't remember. Number 1 is still
really
always
like
the best of it.
Like with the back. Like the first few ones are really good. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one is always my favorite because it's like the most down to earth. They get a bit more silly as they go on. Oh man, but yeah, I love that one. It's so dramatic and so like, oh god, it's just so human. Him just trying to feed his family in that one and survive with all the like background historical stuff that's going on as well. Going the opposite of that, let's go as stupid as possible. My favorite stupid action franchise of all time.
Is it? What is it?
The Fast and the Furious.
Oh my god, the guilty pleasure.
The guilty pleasure, where it's like they get dumber every time they fucking go on, and I still love them.
The moment I don't treat them seriously, it gets better.
Yeah, because the first 2 are like very down to earth. It's like a police officer trying to find out like what's going on in illegal car things, and it's like, oh, this is very serious. Number 3 gets a bit silly, and then they start doing things like dragging safes through Rio de Janeiro, drifting for like miles. They go to fucking space. Oh my god,
I really like
so
Tokyo Drift though.
Tokyo Drift is good. Yeah, Tokyo Drift is another like down to earth one as well. Then they get to the point where it's just like every character is indestructible. They're all superheroes in their own way. They can punch. Like
the moment they decide to make the flying car, I lost my mind.
Yeah, and then you get like Hobbs and Shaw. You get like them being able to use every car essentially as a weapon, just instantly turn them on and drive them at each other. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's so good. Like, you can't deny, as an action film, Fast and the Furious is top tier. Stupid as shit, but top tier. Oh man. And the other one I had on here is Dragon, which is another Donnie Yen one. Donnie Yen, one of my favorite actors for when it comes to like martial arts and action kind of films.
Yeah, I think my like one of the earlier exposure for Donnie Yen to me is when he played the bad guy in Shanghai Night.
Shit, I forgot about that. Shanghai. Oh my god.
Yeah, Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. That's one of my favorite movie too. Like that's my like the go-to film I had back then.
I'm adding both Rush Hour and Shanghai Nights into here as honorable mentions. Those. Oh god, I forget those exist sometimes.
There's Shanghai Night and there's Shanghai Noon.
Yeah, Shanghai Nights and Shanghai
I like
Noon.
the Shanghai Night one. It's the one on that happens in the UK, right?
Yeah, I remember them like drifting down Big Ben on the flat.
Yeah, with like holding on to the and they do like the fencing duels on the clock and Big Ben.
That's what I mean. Those 2 movies just get lost together in my mind with how just wild they are, how wacky they are. Oh my god, the action in those is definitely good. Definitely top tier. But when it comes to
synergy.
When it comes to Dragon, it's a movie that's like kind of wuxia based, but it's like it starts as an investigation, and then basically a police officer kind of thing, like an investigator shows up to a town where a man's been killed and discovers that the man hasn't been killed by like a natural fighting means, but has actually had some chi infused damage dealt to him. Like he's had his heart essentially exploded from the inside with punches, and so he knows someone in town has like some supernatural level abilities of like controlling their chi and stuff. And yeah, from there on it just goes through this whole idea about this one character being a super overpowered badass who's just tried to retire and live quietly in a town. Whoa. But because this investigator comes and tries to arrest him, everybody finds out where he's hiding, and just boom, shit goes down from there. It turns out he was one of the badasses in an assassination guild, tried to have a nice quiet life and just got dragged back into it, and suddenly everybody's hunting him down again. It's so good. It's so good. I saw everybody in chat saying Kung Fu Hustle. Yes.
Oh god.
And what's the
Shaolin Soccer?
Shaolin Soccer. These were technically comedies as well, But I actually prefer the comedy action in these is so good. I saw someone say New Police Story, which I've talked about before. How much I love it.
Which one is your favorite Jackie Chan movies?
Probably New Police Story. Like I've talked about this before. Like I have a lot when it comes to Donnie Yen and Jet Li. When it comes to Jackie Chan, my favorite of his is definitely New Police Story, where it's a bit more modern. It's like a bunch of modern kind of criminals, a bunch of rich kids who are just using like their tech advancements and their money to like break into banks and ruin things. It's really good. And then Jackie Chan's had like this dramatic thing where his whole group was killed off, and so he's got a redemption story after becoming a drunk. It's really over the top, emotional and silly, and like lots of exploding stuff. It's great. It's great. Yeah, Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer, untouchable when it comes to like fucking hilarity. What is the name of the person who made those? Because he made so many other good movies.
Stephen Chow.
Stephen Chow. Stephen Chow.
Oh.
His comedy style is just it never stops going. King of Comedy was another good one by him. And Flirting Scholar. Stephen Chow does great comedy films. I think he did something really recent as well. I don't see it on the list. But he did some recent one where there was like, I think it was almost like a sequel to King of Comedy. I watched. Oh, New King of Comedy. Where it's like, a girl trying to follow in the footsteps. That was interesting as well. But Stephen Chow, just his comedy style is top tier.
It is. I could follow wherever he go back then. So many collection of his films. Whenever I have like a bad day. Oh, speaking about action, I have this one very particular scene in Mission Impossible that I really like.
Oh, which one?
It was totally not necessary, but he did it anyway. It's the one with Henry Cavill like reloading his arms before punching.
Yeah, in the bathroom where he like
I know, like,
throws his fist down and then brings it back up.
But he did it and was like, whoa, that's actually really cool.
That is actually really fucking good. That's so freaking hilarious, man. Mission Impossible is another one of those ones where I feel like they kind of know it's stupid by this point and they've just been trying to one-up themselves continuously. And what's his name? The main actor, Tom Cruise, where he wants to do so many of the takes himself. Like he did that thing of actually like jumping out the plane like a dozen or more times.
The one that's holding onto the side of the plane is really crazy.
Yeah, the fact that he actually did those things is so wild to me.
That's what he did in the latest Top Gun as well. Right?
Yeah, the latest Top Gun is actually really good. I saw it for no good reason. It was just like, oh, it's on, let's see it, why not? And it turned out to be incredible. Not incredible. It's a damn solid movie, though.
It's that one good flex with him is like I think he has this one his Instagram post where he's just like barefooted, standing on the like literally the top of Burj Khalifa on Dubai without any like gear or whatsoever, just like chilling there. Yeah, I'm here, just me, just chilling. Don't even worry about it. The mad lad.
He's so funny. Probably Indiana Jones. I saw people in chat saying Terminator. Do you like Terminator?
So I don't really grow up with it. I think it attach more if you grow up with it.
Yeah, I feel like that. Like I didn't grow up with it either. I've never really been into Terminator too much. And the fact that it's kept going is just kind of surprising to me. Oh God, there's so many when it comes to action. Like people are still going with things where I'm like, yeah, actually that should be up there.
For James Bond, I like the one with, is it Casino Royale with Matt Mikkelsen?
Yes, Casino Royale is honestly the best one for me too. Like the torture scene is so graphic in that one, and that's the one where James Bond feels like the most like a real character.
At that point, I just simped for the Matt Mikkelsen, but he nailed it.
He really did
during Casino Royale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was the first one he actually did, which is really good. Oh, people said Transformers. I thought somebody in chat said Terraformers, and I was gonna say I actually like the live action like Takashi Miike version of Terraformers. It's stupid, but it knows it's stupid. Oh man, that's a great movie. But I thought somebody had actually suggested that, and I was gonna say, yo, based that you've even seen that, but should not be on this list.
Oh, how about Mad Max?
Mad Max. I love Fury Road. I didn't like the old
Fury
one so
Road.
much.
Yeah,
the old
Fury
ones.
Road one with Tom Hardy, right?
Yeah, with Tom Hardy. Yeah, Furiosa is so good in that. The storyline, like the direction is so good. The whole like belief in the higher power with the whole like witness me kind of shit. That shit's all done really well.
That's what I feel if live action Borderland would be with less like humor in it.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. It's very Borderlands. Yeah, they even like the way they like decorate themselves is very Borderlands. And Mika's in chat. John Wick and Ip Man. Yeah, let's go. Oh, but you love Indiana Jones. That's fair. I just didn't grow up with it. Indiana Jones has never been for me. I prefer the Goonies to Indiana Jones. That's not really an action movie, but I love the Goonies, which had a similar feeling to Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones just never got me. A lot of these other ones, like Mad Max, like I was going to say, the original Mad Max kind of mixes in its head to me with like Waterworld as well. And some of those other like classic post-apocalyptic ones. I think like Escape from New York as well. Those kinds of things all kind of blend into my mind, which is why Mad Max Fury Road actually like steps out among other things. Sir, you wrote Indiana. What? What? Where did I write? Oh, in Indiana. Oh, my bad.
Oh,
that's my bad, chat.
Oh, this is my
Interstellar. I wouldn't consider action. I'd consider that a sci-fi.
I was an advocate to tell how much I like the first Pacific Rim.
I loved that because it felt like they basically said, "Hey, let's make Evangelion" without being allowed to make Evangelion.
But I don't. I never considered the second one its sequels.
The second one wasn't so good. The first one was pretty damn good.
I like the first one because it felt real, and you can just feel the weight and how difficult to operate like a huge ass hunk of metals like that.
Yeah, and they actually have like a good deal of like emotional drama to it with people trying.
It does.
Yeah.
And the second one just
work together.
It looks like a Power Ranger film.
It really does,
like,
yeah.
Like all the weights and they just can like jump and fly like that. Like, bro, where was the struggle? I thought like the whole synchronizations, the weight and like the complexity of piloting the Jaeger was the thing.
Yeah, you really felt like the weight of those punches and everything.
Yeah, every time they did punch and walks is like, it's so satisfying.
That's another thing I'm looking forward to in EDF this week, because you get to get in a mecha and beat up a Godzilla. And not Godzilla. And absolutely not Godzilla.
Not Godzilla.
Jason Bourne, fair enough. Angel Has Fallen, I'm not really into Angel Has Fallen. Jason Bourne was a good series for that. Transporter, I really like. Transporter and pretty much anyone by that actor. What's his name? What's the one where his heart has to be constantly restarted with electricity? That's a really good one. Well, Jason Statham. His movies are so wild. Wrath of Man, which came out recently. Really, in fact, yeah, I'm just putting Jason Statham on here. Fuck it. If it's Jason Statham, it's probably pretty good action. Wrath of Man is one of my favorite recent movies. Yeah, another like badass. Oh god, even like The Accountant recently.
Oh, The Accountant.
Yeah, The Accountant's a really good action. There's been a lot of good action films recently, actually, for some reason. I forget its name. It was like, it wasn't Mr. Nobody, but it was like No One or something like that.
Nobody.
Was it just called Nobody?
Yeah. It's
is that like the John Wick kind of one, right? Where it would just like seem like a normal guy. Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk, my man.
Bob Odenkirk, yeah, it does so good in that. Nobody has really good action scenes in it as well.
Oh, the bus scene.
Yes! The bus scene is so fucking well done. Oh my god, Nobody's so damn good. There's too many to fit in here at this point, though. It's just... Maybe I should have put in Stephen Chow instead of just two films. Ah, it's fine. Just consider, yeah, the fact that Nobody should be in this list, too.
Right. Fulgur, it's been very fun talking about
you gotta head out
with you, but I need to go.
No problem. Thank you for joining me,
Tucker. I need to be in the fantasy land.
Have fun in your fantasy land. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for joining us.
Goodbye, chat. Goodbye, Fulgur. Thank you so much for having me.
Goodbye. Have a lovely evening.
I really like to talk about films at once. One of my favorite activities
That's the thing. I can talk about films for hours. It's just so much to do. So yeah, no worries. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us.
Have a good night as well.
Bye-bye. Agie, no more taka. Cool. Okay, we're done with action. We put out a big list. The ones that I actually added are essentially down to here. These ones you guys kind of reminded me of, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. They should be there. Indiana Jones, Mad Max Fury Road, absolutely incredibly directed. Well done the whole way through. Baby Driver, such good action, all set to music really well. We talked about that earlier before we even got to action movies. Anything by Jason Statham, always a fun time. Let me look up some of the ones I actually like by Jason Statham particularly. The Transporter series, Wrath of Man. The Meg was dumb but fucking fun. I don't care, it was fun anyway. He's in The Fast and the Furious. Crank's the one where he has to constantly restart his heart with more electricity. It's stupid, it's fun. And of course he made it into The Expendables, where The Expendables was a lot of good fun as well. I don't think I ever watched Hummingbird. Interesting. Might have to try that. Okay. Time to rewatch. Edge of Tomorrow had some good action as well. That's based off of a manga, Kill, Die, Repeat. But yeah. I don't know why they didn't just keep the name of that one as Kill, Die, Repeat. Kill, Die, Repeat is such a good name. I think they ended up like going back to that original name when it ended up flopping. But Kill, Die, Repeat is really good. Death Race was really good as well. Kingsman, did I not add that in? I think that was in there. If it wasn't, it was supposed to be in there. Anyway. We're moving on from action. Comedy done, action done, fantasy done. We've got sci-fi and romance. Let's do sci-fi. We'll end on romance. We'll end gently. Sci-fi. And this list is probably going to be pretty confused because I could not remember very many sci-fi movies, even though sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. So this one's going to be kind of silly as we start this. Star Wars, you know what? That instantly goes into honorable mentions. I did not put that in my main ones, and that is fair. I would say the original trilogy of Star Wars is a goddamn masterpiece and should probably be in my top 5, but it's not. Star Wars is an expanded universe. The second set of trilogies, I wasn't a big fan of. The third set of trilogies, I would never got into. The first part of that trilogy felt like it just essentially remade the first movie, and I felt kind of like pandered to, so I didn't like it because of that. And then the second one went in a different direction, which really annoyed me. And then the third one was completely off, so no, not a fan of those ones at all. The anime series that came out recently, I liked like 1 or 2 parts of. And I did like Mandalorian, and I did like a couple of the spin-offs. I like some of the games, but yeah, in general, Star Wars is just not my thing. Yes, but I mean, that's fair. Dune, instantly. The new Dune goes into there immediately. That's 2021, right? Goes into there immediately. Because that is a amazing made movie. I like that they took the time with it. The fact that they only made 1 part so far, but they took their time to make it properly and didn't just try to rush into it and be like, let's get all this story in one go, or record 3 parts at one go. They were just like, we're going to do this. We're going to put this out there. People are going to like it, and we're going to come back. Clone Wars was good. Okay, let me actually do this. So, when it comes to sci-fi, one of my favorite movies of all time. This is gonna annoy people. Fuck it. Prometheus. Again, these are not in order of my top 5, but still. This is just to get this one out of the way so that people can shout at me. I love Prometheus. I love the Alien series. The main thing I loved about the Alien series wasn't the alien and horror aspects themselves. It was the fact that they had like that idea of the ancient aliens things when it came into the architects. This general idea of a species before humanity being out there. The cosmic horror parts of that, of them basically being giant, huge humans who are more powerful than us and more smart than us and existed thousands of years before us and should have outlived us, but somehow died. And how did they possibly die? And Prometheus took that and ran with it. They made a whole movie out of that shit. And I fucking loved it. I loved that beginning of those movies where it just explored the general idea of, hey, What if there's life out there, and what if we could find it? What if it's guiding us home and they created us? That's freaking great. I love that. I wish they had continued on that rather than trying to connect it just back to the goddamn alien thing. That's fine. That's fine. Anyway, we'll go on to the next one, which will annoy people a bit less. I'm not sure if this one's particularly well known anymore. It's like a horror sci-fi mashup. Event Horizon. Which gets very cosmic horror, very existential horror. And kind of reminds me of the TV show, like the first season of The Expanse. Well, technically, The Expanse is a novel series before anything else. But Event Horizon is just a really good horror sci-fi film, wherein a spaceship has basically... How much can I say without spoiling this one? Event Horizon's really good. You should watch it. It's a horror movie where a spaceship itself has essentially become haunted. And yeah, you explore the spaceship and you find out what happened to the crew and how they assimilated. It's all like multi-dimensional horror. It feels like when they made the Cloverfield Paradox, which was like a second sequel to Cloverfield, and they were jumping around dimensions and stuff. They basically stole some of their idea. Well, they didn't steal. They basically used some of the ideas from Event Horizon and didn't do it well. Whereas Event Horizon has the proper like cosmic horror, body horror, fucked up situations going on in space that you can't escape from because you're trapped in a spaceship with everyone. It's so... I searched this pics and oh my god, yeah. The first book for The Expanse, I think it's called Something's War. God damn it, I've got the book around here somewhere. Gideon's War or something? Anyway, it focuses on the general idea of a spaceship being infected by an interdimensional being that has a consciousness but can take over technology and come to life. It's incredible. Event Horizon basically did that ages ago, but turned it into a horror movie and an existential crisis kind of movie. It's so fucking good. Anyway, we'll move on to number 3. Who said Among Us? No, how dare. How dare. I'm gonna put out one that I feel like a lot of film buffs know. It was a pretty small thing when it was made. It was made, I'm pretty sure, as like an indie thing and pretty cheaply. But it's called Moon. It has one of the like best revelation kind of things when it comes to it. It involves just like a dude who has to work on a lunar station, so a station on the moon for a year, doing like menial tasks, just getting some shit done, collecting some energy sources and sending them back to Earth. And from there it gets a bit horror-filled and very sci-fi, where you don't quite know what's going on, but you start to find out that this dude's on the moon for a reason he might not have expected, and one that he definitely didn't choose to be there for. The revelations come at you slowly, but by the end of it, you're completely shocked by exactly what's going on. It's so good. It's so powerful. I can't say much about that other than just watch it. It starts off so slow. It will grow on you, and you will love it by the end. The revelations actually got me, which is pretty rare. Not that I'm smart or anything. I'm not trying to say, oh, I always outthink movies. It's just, I've seen so many movies by this point that normally I can see the signs, the Chekhov's guns building up. We've done the Prometheus. So we've got 2 more that are probably not really well known. I got very annoying with my sci-fi movies. Now that I'm seeing people suggest movies, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. That's like a better known one and probably a better made one, but The Endless. The Endless is a movie in which 2 kids who grew up as part of a cult suddenly get a VHS tape sent to them, and they decide to follow the VHS tape. It was sent from them from their childhood cult, and they don't know what's going on, but they decide to go back just to see what's going on. And when they do, they essentially find out that since they left, absolutely nothing has changed at all. And something weird is going on. And it follows them like reintegrating into this community that everybody is kind of weird at. It's a bit like Midsommar, where they all live out in the desert and they live like very simplistically. And there's this very weird scenario going on where even though it's been like more than a decade, no one there seems to have aged a day. And they feel like one of them feels like they've been lured there for nefarious purposes, and maybe they're going to be sacrificed or tortured or something. And yeah, it gets very deep from there. It's really good. Like, it's worth watching. It just never stops with the revelations one by one. So good. I can't really say. This is the problem. So many of these that like I love them because they have big twists in them. I guess that works for The Arrival as well, whereas I could talk a lot more about the general makeup of The Arrival. Whereas so many of these are like, they have good revelations. I swear the basic premise does not give exactly what you want from it. Okay, my number 5 is... yeah. Another one by one of my favorite directors. Annihilation. So Annihilation is another one that's based off of a novel, and the novel is written in a very interesting way. It does have 2 ends. Shit. I was like, that can't be right. God damn it. But yeah, it's based off of a novel that was written in a very interesting way. It's one of the few novels, movies based off of a novel where I have actually read the novel in this. The 4 main characters in the storyline that go explore an dimensional anomaly that has fallen onto Earth all have different like specialities when it comes to science, and so the novel mainly mentions them by their specialities. Like it will be like, the geologist said this, the forensic whatever said this. Like it's written very interestingly, and they all do speak like they're constantly thinking about their one reason for being there. It's written incredibly well. The movie like leads into that as well, with reasons that people would go into a place that they know they probably won't come back from, but they want to explore like the nature of the universe. This is cosmic horror. Yeah, it's cosmic horror. I love cosmic horror, so yeah, there's got to be a lot of cosmic horror on it. But yeah, the general idea is something's fallen down to the Earth, and it's a slowly expanding field where anything that enters the field, its DNA, its makeup, everything gets warped a little bit. Whatever this alien species is, it's kind of like Lovecraft's The Color Purple, or The Color Out of Space, where it's something we can't quite understand, we can't see physically, but it's interacting with life at a genetic level, taking it apart and rebuilding it in a way that it wants to deal with. And so yeah, there's all these different scientists that are trying to study it. It's slowly expanding. They know if they don't do anything, eventually it's going to take over the whole planet, and it doesn't matter anyway. So a bunch of people are deciding to walk into it and try to examine it, try to figure out what's going on. Why did they go into it, and what happens to them when they do, and what happened to all the other forms of life when they got into it. Natalie Portman? Yeah, it's Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, Gina Rodriguez. Who's the other girl? There was a big name that was in it, but I can't remember. Is it? What else were you in? I felt like there was like Sookie Stackhouse or someone in it, but I guess not. I must have imagined that. Weird. Anyway, that is my top 5 sci-fi movies. Honorable mentions. Let me grab these. Dark City, which I've talked about at length before, how much I love it and how trippy it is and how cyberpunk it is. Sunshine. It's another one where the universe is ending, so I like that. Really good classical music. I think it's called Adagio in C minor. One of my favorite songs of all time. Sunshine's just another one where people go into space. They try to reset the sun because the sun is turning off, essentially. It's running out of fuel. They have a payload where if they don't deliver it, the whole universe, solar system is going to be gone. Blade Runner / 2049. Even though I much prefer 2049 to the original Blade Runner, I can't deny that when the original Blade Runner came out, it was a masterpiece. It's just not great to me anymore. I also really liked Black Lotus recently, the series of Blade Runner. And the short movies that they brought out, the anime movies, were really good, especially the one that had like the robot, the android that used to be like a dancer that fought alongside the anarchist that ended up causing the blackout. That shit was great. I loved that. That was very... I brought it very much more to like a Ghost in the Shell kind of place where I really liked it. Ex Machina. Primer, which is one about time travel, but in a very simplistic way, where just a group of friends have found out how to do time travel. It's a very simple version of time travel that I really like. It has good twists in it. Does this count as... You know what? I'm going to count it. Memento. Memento is actually probably one of my top 30 movies of all time. It's a really good, like, it's another one that pulls the wool over your eyes. Time goes like in different directions in Memento. It's a dude who has no short-term memory. And so although he can remember things about himself, it all stops at one point. And so he lives his life with a bunch of like Polaroid things. Everything's tattooed onto his body to remind him of who he is and what he has to do. And then he has like messages that he's left to himself. Really good. I did Primer. Add Interstellar? No, Interstellar. Which I think pretty much everyone knows about. It's another, the universe is ending. We have to do something. It has to do with like time dilation once he gets into space, which is really good. It takes a long time to get into space though, which is part of the problem. I didn't like the robot. The robot could have been better. The Fly. Existence. I feel like everybody knows what The Fly is as well. That's a body horror one where a person essentially messes with his DNA, combines it with a fly accidentally, and then he becomes a fly. It's really fucked up. Existence is a really old one where essentially virtual reality games have been invented. A person puts on a virtual reality headset, ends up in a game world, has fun playing the game. It all feels real. It feels way too real. It's a lot of body horror as well and disgusting stuff. But yeah, he comes out of the game, but then he's not sure whether he's in the game or out of the game still. It's very Matrix, where it's like, what if we're still in the game? And there's like multiple levels to the game, and you never quite know when it ends. Like, are they back in reality yet, or are they just one layer deeper? Very also Inception style. I liked Existence. Some films by Nolan, where I don't see any. I'll add Inception. That's technically a sci-fi. That's the thing. A lot of his ones don't fit because they're more dramas to me. Like the Batman films, I guess, could have technically been action, but even then, I'd only put Batman Begins in. I wasn't actually that big of a fan as the second one, like everybody else was. And when it comes to his movies in general, I think my favorite one of his was, I forget the one, the island one, where it's the investigator, the police officer, having like memories. Oblivion? I didn't actually like Oblivion that much. Gravity? I didn't like Gravity that much. Gravity was interesting, where it was just like Sandra Bullock floating through space trying to get back to... Anyway, Shutter Island. Thank you. That's the one. Shutter Island's really good. But yeah. Gravity I wasn't that much of a fan of. Like, I get the appeal of it, but yeah. Martian was just kind of boring to me, even. It just felt like it was just someone trying to survive. It was, yeah. Battle Angel Alita, I'll add that here. Fuck it. That should have probably been in action. But I'll add that here just because it's one of the few movies that actually did an anime adaptation pretty damn well. I loved Battle Angel Alita. iRobot? Yeah, I'll add iRobot. iRobot was fun. 2001: A Space Odyssey? No, bored me to tears. I'm sorry. I know that's apparently one of the best films ever made for cinematography for the time. Way too long, way too slow. I know like all the beats of it. I could not tell you the entire film because I've never managed to stay awake the whole way through it. I immediately see people saying, how dare. Gantz, yeah, I'll add Gantz 0. Gantz 0 is a pretty damn good movie, even though I had no idea what was going on in it because I haven't read the manga. I stopped off at the anime. Gattaca, I'll add Gattaca. Fuck yeah. Gattaca was really good. Gattaca's a story where basically everybody has got perfect DNA nowadays. In the story, everybody has perfect DNA because they created a way that they could genetically engineer themselves to be perfect. So anyone who was born like not perfect is basically seen as a lower class citizen and isn't allowed to apply for certain jobs or do certain things. And then there's this guy who really wants to become, I think, an astronaut or something. He essentially like does all these things where he hires somebody who has like perfect DNA to let him use his blood, use his hair. Like he pretends to be him. He takes his identity willingly, like he pays for it. And he has to do all these like interesting levels of things of like putting fake fingertips on himself and little tiny bits of blood in them. Making sure his actual biological hair never falls off anywhere because people can test it and see that he's not a perfect human being. It's done really well. It's really damn good. E.T. I wasn't actually a fan of E.T. The Thing I will add. Fuck me. The Thing is incredible. The Thing is the original Among Us. Let's be fair. The Thing is fantastic. In Time. Is that the Justin Timberlake one? That had an interesting storyline, but it didn't really go anywhere. Alice in Borderland isn't a movie. It's a TV show. Unless. Is it? The Matrix? I didn't really like The Matrix. Oh, The Fifth Element. Let's go. Now you're talking. The Fifth Element was incredible. It had great world building. The song that alien sang was so good. About Tenet, didn't like it. Interesting idea, not done well. Cloud Atlas, I did like. Cloud Atlas was fantastic. Some stupid ideas when they made that film. But I did like the idea of like the same human spirits coming back multiple times and reuniting with each other in different ways, always having the same birthmark, so you could kind of tell who was who based on their personality, based on the way they were raised, were very different. It was very good. Didn't like the Matrix. It was boring to me. I liked the first Matrix. Everything after the first Matrix has soured everything beyond that for me. I tried to watch the new Matrix. I hated it. I remember hating number 2 and 3. Can't even remember them anymore. The first Matrix was a masterpiece, but everything since then, it just killed me to the point where I can't even look at the originals anymore. It's the same. That's probably the reason that Star Wars isn't in one of my top 5. They've just continuously run it down into the ground where I can't look at the originals the same anymore. And it sucks. But yeah, it gets to that point where I'm just like, eh. District 9 is also pretty amazing. Bronze. The whole like cordoning off a little area for the aliens wanting more, the way that the aliens and humans interact with each other is incredible. Butterfly effect. I'll do that. Loop a lot so much. Reflect. Butterfly effect, yeah. I'm gonna add that. That was actually one of my favorite films for a long time. I am very into time travel, if you couldn't tell. A lot of these movies throughout this entire list have had to do with like timey-wimey shenanigans. But Butterfly Effect was one of the ones that hit me very hard when I was very young. The different ways that like reality could change based on that. The ending of the film is so powerful to me, depending on which cut you make. There's a normal cut and a director's cut. The director's cut is the best one for me, because all of like the Chekhov's guns were placed there already with like spoilers. Oh God. The ending for the director's cut really, really seals the deal for me for everything. I know there were sequels. I never watched them. I never want to watch them. I've heard they were bad. But Butterfly Effect 1, even though it was a bit silly and a bit rushed, I had a lot of fun with it. It was very interesting seeing him go back in time, change things, and how it really did like have a butterfly effect ability to just spread out into everything else. I'm sad Space Odyssey is not here. Well, you're not here either, Millie. So this is your fault. I can't. It's too long. The Time Traveler's Wife? How dare you with the Time Traveler's Wife? You know what? Top 5 romance. Time Traveler's Wife. How did you know? This is because Millie incepted this into you guys' brain yesterday by saying that I love Rachel McAdams. That only came up because I realized when I was like making all of my like list of favorite movies, I was like, holy shit, Rachel McAdams is like in every one of my favorite romance movies. It wasn't that I was just suddenly like, damn, I really love Rachel McAdams. She's like the perfect woman. It was just I was looking through my list of movies and I was like, you know what? She's fucking everywhere. The Notebook, you know what? We'll immediately put that into honorable mentions. I felt like that was one where it was like, The Notebook is a lot of fun. It's very angsty. It's very dramatic. It's very over the top. And it seems like it's one of those ones that will make anyone cry and everybody believes it's just in general a good crying film. And again, Rachel McAdams. Not one of my top 5, but yeah, I can see why people love that one. Now, let me tell you about the Time Traveler's Wife. I fucking love time travel, if you couldn't tell. If it's done right. I hate time paradoxes that never get unsolved. The Time Traveler's Wife doesn't do that. It's a story about a guy who can travel back in time, but he doesn't get to choose when it happens. It just happens. He will just suddenly be there. He will start to disappear. His clothes will disappear, and he'll appear naked at some point in a different time. Sometimes in the past, sometimes in the future. And he always gets drawn back to like important points. When he was a child, he time traveled away from his car, which had just been in a crash. And his mother like turned around to see him vanishing. He disappeared out of place, reappeared just beside the car. Had to watch his mother being destroyed by a truck in front of him. And then an older version of him, like a 30 to 40-year-old version of him, grabbed him from behind while he was a naked little child, wrapped a blanket around him and told him, by the way, you're a time traveler, and I'm you from the future. This is very confusing. By the way, you're not going to be able to save your mom because you can't change things that happened in the past. Like, that's what I like about this one as well. The time travel in it doesn't have like the multiverse, like if you change one thing, everything will change. You'll want to go back. kind of shit. Instead, it does the opposite thing where it's all one scenario. It's always going to happen. So, for example, he tells the doctor that what he's got is called chrono impairment because he knows it's called chrono impairment and therefore the doctor's going to call it chrono impairment. Or like the fact that this is a romance involves him like going back in time, which is, this is going to get very problematic very quickly. He goes back in time when he's like a 35-year-old man and finds a 6-year-old girl in the forest while he's a naked 35-year-old man and shouts out to the 6-year-old girl, hey, can you find me some clothes? She goes and gets some of her dad's clothes and brings them to him. He steps out and tells her, by the way, I'm a time traveler. And she, of course, doesn't believe him and has like the stranger danger moment, but then he disappears in front of her and tells her, by the way, I'll be back here at this date. And so there's that whole timeline paradox of it where, keep in mind, by this point at his 35-year-old self, he's already met her when she's about the same age as him, and they've already like been together, started dating, and had sex. So it's very weird because you do get to this point in the storyline. This is based off of a book. I've actually read the novel. The novel's very good as well. But yeah, you get to this point where she realizes she never really had a choice whether or not she fell in love with him. Because whereas he didn't meet her until he was like 30, met her, fell in love with her, and then started going time and see her as a child, she, from the time she was 6 years old, had been meeting him when he was in his 30s, in his 40s. He was this mature man who appeared and like wasn't creepy with her. Like he didn't say like, oh, you're gonna be my wife someday. No, I love you. No, he would just show up and like treat her like a child and like play games with her and be nice with her, but all the time knowing that someday this would grow into be the woman that he's in love with. It's very weird. It's very weird. Definitely problematic. I fucking love it. I don't give a shit. But yeah, you get that very angsty point where she does realize he's basically tricked her into loving her because she's known him since she was 6. There was no possible way for her to do anything but fall in love with him. It was predestined. And so that like wraps into the drama of it. He knows like a lot of the things that are going to happen before they happen, and that confuses the hell out of her and makes her uncomfortable. Plus the fact that he can't control when he time travels. So sometimes he'll just be there getting ready for a date, getting ready for an event, getting ready for some of the biggest events in their life, and then poof, he'll just disappear and she's left alone. Sometimes for days, sometimes for hours, sometimes for weeks. It's interesting. It's a very deep storyline. It has a lot of drama in it and pain and sorrow and sadness, and I cried. I rewatched it very recently again and I still love it. It's fun. I will defend that movie to the end of my life. It may not necessarily be my number one. Like I said, these aren't in list of order of the list, but it's great. One that I think everybody will probably agree with, I think this is my only basic bitch answer in this, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is an interesting one. Let's make this a bit smaller so it'll go double-lined. Is that what it's called? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? That feels wrong somehow. Yeah, it is. Okay. I was like, that doesn't feel right. That's not a sentence. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, starring Jim Carrey. Very interesting movie in which people have found ways to mess with memories. And so because of that, one of the things that people can do if they've had a very bad breakup with someone and they want to just move on with their life, rather than giving it the time to move on, is it really basic or is it just classic? Kind of both. That's what I mean. I'm such a non-contrarian that I'm like, it's basic. I hate it because I love it so much and everyone else does. Anyway, because of the ability to like mess with people's like minds, memories, you can essentially erase people from your memories. And so one of the most valuable ways that people use that is erasing people that they were in love with that they need to get out of their mind to move on. And the storyline involves a man deciding to do that, being locked inside his mind and seeing his memories play back one by one as they disappear, and then realizing that maybe he doesn't want to erase those memories and trying to escape that, trying to find a way to stop the process when it's already begun. It's very deep. It's very interesting. I freaking love it. I like the title. The title, yeah, is good as well. The title makes you think, what the fuck is this? I need to watch this to know what the hell this even means. This movie gave me a Brain fart? I know, yeah. It's interesting. The level of things that are going on in this storyline all at once. It's very good. Wow, people are just throwing out names. I'll add 500 Days of Summer up here. That's another heartbreaking one. I like 500 Days of Summer, mainly because it took the manic pixie dream girl that was... Oh god, what is that actress's name? Fuck. Let me look this up. Zoe Deschanel? Zoe Deschanel, isn't it? Yeah, Zoe Deschanel. It took Zoe Deschanel, who had always played the manic pixie dream girl before that, and it put her in a manic pixie dream girl world where suddenly she was the manic pixie dream girl that would actually move on with her life and realize that the man she was with was a piece of shit that nobody cared about. Oh shit, Rez is in chat. That movie is a lot of things to take. Yeah, it is. Millie, come closer to the bush, kid. I've been missing these comments. How dare you? How dare you? Don't besmirch my time traveler's wife. But yeah, I like that because it took the general idea of like a manic pixie dream girl and said, hey, remember that they float around this way and that way. They're actually real people in reality. They wouldn't just be constantly in love with this one depressed guy and pulling them out of their shell. They would have their own lives too. You pathetic loser. They're not just there to make you happy again. So yeah, I liked that about 500 Days of Summer. Anyway, moving on. Romance. We'll go with a super depressing one. And it's not The Notebook. I have an even more depressing movie for you. Never Let Me Go. Never Let Me Go is based off of it's an adaptation of a novel of the same name by, I believe, Haruki Murakami. One second. Never Let Me Go. Oh shit, nope. It's Kazuo Ishiguro. This is why I have to look these things up. Which one did Haruki Murakami write? Anyway, Never Let Me Go is about a group of young children at a prestigious private school where it's a boarding school. They don't know their parents. They only know the school itself. And you're introduced to this story through these eyes of the children that don't quite know what's going on. They just know that they have to be essentially perfect. They go to school, they do their studies, they're incredibly healthy. They always eat like just the right amount of calories, just the right amount of nutrients. Everything's going good in their lives. I'm going to spoil this thing that happens like a quarter way into the story for you guys. If you don't want to hear the spoiler, you can jump out now. It is pretty early that it gets revealed because most of it is them dealing with this fact. But it turns out that these are all clones of people from the real world who have essentially been cloned to be organ harvested. And so they go through school, they get grown up, they make it to age 16, and then they start doing like a job experience, like a little bit of life taster kind of thing. They get 2 to 4 years out in the real world, growing up and working jobs and being real people for a little while. And then I think it's when they hit age 18 or it's when it hits the age 20. And just suddenly, that's it. From then on, at any point, if they're ever a match for somebody who needs like a kidney or a liver or anything like that, an eye, one by one, they'll just get called in and it's like, oh, somebody needs your liver, come in. They'll cut out their liver and then they'll go back to life. They have to go back to life and continue living like that. And they just know that at some point they'll get a surgery call in where somebody will need a heart or somebody will need one of the organs that they can't live without. And then they'll just harvest the rest of their organs at the same time and just scatter them as much as they can, give them out to as many people as they can. And so they have no idea when they're going to die. They just know it could be measured in weeks. It could be measured in like 2-3 years, maybe. That's it. Yeah. So for some of them, they get to live quite a while without ever being called in for a surgery, whereas other ones get called in immediately and maybe lose an eye or a kidney or something like that and have to go back to life and deal with that shit. It's really fucked up. It's really fucked up. That doesn't sound like romance? Okay. The main romance plot of it is the fact that these kids grew up in a school together where there is this urban legend where if 2 of them actually can prove to the rest of the world that they're soulmates, that they loved each other, that because of that they deserve to have a few extra years, that they will be given the opportunity to live life for a couple extra years, like 5-10 years, just living as a married couple who don't need to donate any of their organs. And so the love story is built up throughout the storyline while they're dealing with the fact that they're going to eventually be organ donors. And then they have to decide if they can prove to the world that they are essentially soulmates with any of the people they grew up with, and go back to the school and say, hey, we're soulmates. We have souls. See, we love each other. And yeah, that's when the romance angle starts to come into it. It's very deep. It's very dramatic. It's beautiful. I fucking love Never Let Me Go. The movie is done so well. I think, is that movie directed by Alex Holland? I'm gonna fucking fuck this up again, aren't I? Just like with the fucking Kazuo Ishiguro. Let's see who the director of this, or is it Dennis Villeneuve? Let me see. Apparently it's Mark Romanek. Where the fuck did I get that from? I'm sure this was directed or written by someone that I knew. Huh? Okay, ignore me. Am I an idiot? am I an idiot? Maybe I am. Oh, Alex Garland asked the author for the rights of the novel before he'd finished reading it. Garland had already written a script for a possible... Okay, Alex Garland wrote the script. Okay, I knew Alex Garland had something to do with it. Yeah, he went on to, like, he made 28 Days Later, he made Sunshine, he made Never Let Me Go, he made Dread, he made Ex Machina, and Annihilation. So Alex Garland is one of my favorite directors. He's done so many things, and now I found out he was the writer of Never Let Me Go, not the director of it. Oh, he was the writer of Sunshine and 28 Days Later too. He didn't direct them. Wow, I've been lying to myself for a long time. There you go. I knew it had something to do with Alex Garland. And this is why I never trust myself with anything. But yeah, that's my number 3. Very depressing, very interesting. I didn't actually do. Let's go with this. You guys know I like time travel, right? You guys know I like time travel, so fuck it. This would actually be my number 1. This would actually, like, no doubt be my number 1 above everything else. I know that for a fact when it comes to romance. About Time. Another time travel one. In this case, the person can choose where he travels back to. And while it is one dimension, like, he could always remember what happens. He's able to go back in time, change things, see what happens in the future that he creates, but then he can also go back in time and unedit them again. And he uses his powers in a lot of fun ways. A lot of fun ways. Another Rachel McAdams film. I know. I know. She's in every one of the big romance films, guys. Leave me alone. But yeah, About Time is really cute. Yeah, it's just about a family where every male in the family can travel back in time. They use it for different things. Some of them make themselves rich. Some of them make themselves just able to do whatever they want with their free time. In the case of the main guy, he just wants to use it to find love. He meets a girl on a blind date, a literal blind date. They're literally in pitch darkness. It turns out to be Rachel McAdams, so of course he falls in love with her. And then he spends the rest of the movie rewinding time to make everything that they do together pretty much perfect, but not in a creepy way, in a nice way. He does it in a creepy way with some other things. Every time travel movie has some creepy moments. Don't worry about it. It's a beautiful movie. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. It has some tragedies. It has one of the most lovely romances I can imagine. And it travels a lot of the way through their life. So yeah, I like them when they actually travel a lot through their life rather than the big like, oh my God, they confessed to each other and kissed. Happy ending. They're going to live happily ever after. Fairy tale romance. I like them to actually get together and have some drama and like be working and conflicting with each other and shit like that. So it's really good. Rachel McAdams is very beautiful. Yes. She's not my perfect woman. Fuck you, Millie. Fuck you, Millie. And finally, my 5th favorite romance. The one for the... the one for modern man who doesn't like interacting with people. Her. If you don't know what Her is, essentially it's a story in which a man upgrades his phone essentially to an AI interface which has personality. It develops its own mind, and he falls in love with it. Like the one he upgrades it to, I think has the voice, is it of Natalie Portman? 1 second. That turned it into what? Her movie. Scarlett Johansson. Thank you. Okay, so it has the voice of Scarlett Johansson. She constantly wants to like learn more about the world because obviously she's a computer who's never been into the world. And yeah, he basically, it's like a long distance relationship kind of thing where he will show her around the world, guiding her around while she's like in his pocket, interacting the world that way. And they also do some interesting things where like, because she's a computer and can't have a body in the real world, there are people who want to be part of that relationship. We won't go into that. It's an interesting look into like long distance relationships and the fact that this dude is like so lonely that he falls in love with essentially his phone, who doesn't know anything about the world, but is just human enough that he's able to feel a connection there. And a lot of people on this world actually fall in love with their AI programs to the point where it becomes like a big thing. Oh man, it's a really good movie. It develops really well. And then the ending is just completely wild. I wish the ending actually went further. I wish the ending ended like, oh man. What's that film where Johnny Depp becomes an AI and then becomes like super intelligent and tries to take over the world? I wish her ended like that. That would have been fucking hilarious. That's what I want to see. Oh man. Anyway, that's my main ones. I didn't actually have any honorable mentions for romance. By the time I was wrapping this up last night, I was running out of time. It was like 2 a.m. Transcendence, thank you. So I'm just going to real quick add like Docusei. Throw some more romances at me. We'll see if I liked them. Docusei I've talked about a billion times. I don't need to talk about it again. It's an anime movie, a boys love movie. It's great. Titanic. I'll add Titanic. Yo, I've seen that so many times. Oh, Atonement? That's in my unlisted ones. Holy shit. That's in my honorable mentions where I didn't know where to put it. Atonement, both the novel and the movie are incredible. I've read the novel for that one as well. It's beautiful. Really tragic love story. The Age of Adeline. Let's go. That's one about an immortal woman. You know how I love tragic immortality stories too. The Age of Adeline is about a woman named Adeline who's been immortal for like, I think 100 years at this point. She meets a young man who falls in love with her. Obviously, she's gorgeous. But yeah, it turns out she's been around for like 100 years. The person that she keeps calling her grandmother was actually her daughter. And it's really tragic seeing her outlive everyone, essentially. It's a really good movie. And it's about her like trying to move on with the fact that she can love again and shit. Shrek. What did Millie say? Why is everyone saying Millie no? 50 Shades of Grey. Not enough sex in 50 Shades of Grey, Millie. They didn't devote themselves properly. Not a good romance story to me. And not enough sex for it to be a good sex movie. No, terrible. Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's not really a romance. That's like a family movie. That's definitely like in my top 50 movies of all time. But that's another one where the action isn't quite actiony enough. That was more like a drama movie. I really should have made like a top 5 drama. That would have been number 1. I'm going to list like a bunch at the end of this where I just didn't know where the fuck they fit in. But yeah. Is True Shrek? Not for me. Pride and Prejudice, I didn't like. La La Land, no. Good Omens, that's not a movie. That's a TV series. Twilight, fuck off out of here. Interview with a Vampire, how is that a romance? I mean, it's either like a subtle romance or like a really fucked up. If you read the book, you know what the romance in Interview with a Vampire is, and oh my god. Try to explain that to people nowadays. The director coming to theaters near you. I'm not a director, how dare. A Dog's Purpose is beautiful. Is beautiful. Shape of Water. Really? You know what? I'll add that. I like that. Anything that involves monster fucking is good with me. Oh, hey, Kyo, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Millie, why did you say Marley and Me? How dare? How dare? Brokeback Mountain? I never actually liked Brokeback Mountain. Not been a fan of it. Otarubi no Morie. Oh my god, yeah, actually. Is that Forest of the Fireflies? I think is the English title. Unless I'm wrong. But yeah, that's actually really good. That's a really subtle romance. It's really cute. Moonlight. Moonlight's well directed, but it's kind of too slow for me. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't put it in like my top list personally. That is Hotarubi. Good. Fuck romance. What? Good. Just impressed by your movie knowledge. I've just been alive a long time. The Vow. Is The Vow? I thought that was a horror movie coming out soon. What? Howl's Moving Castle. I didn't really like Howl's Moving Castle that level. Howl's Moving Castle is an okay movie. I think I'd put other Ghibli movies above Howl's Moving Castle. No matter what. Yeah, fight me. I don't care. Fault in Our Stars. Shh. I prefer the book to the movie. The Fault in Our Stars is an incredible book. The movie, pretty good. Doesn't quite hit as hard as the book for me. Maybe it's because the book is about an author and about like death of the author and shit. The movie's pretty good. The movie's pretty damn good. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Not really me. Umi Bino Etranja? Nah. What about If Only? I don't even know what If Only is. Kimi no Nawa? I'll add that. That's cute. That's another basic one. I didn't really add that because it was like, I like other movies by that. Silent Voice. That's in my list of things that I didn't know where to put. Thank you. Silent Voice is technically a romance, even though it's a very slow burning romance. And really, it's more just about the drama of a character actually developing a goddamn personality. Silent Voice is a wonderfully directed movie, absolutely beautifully animated, incredible all around. I like Licorice Pizza. Licorice Pizza? I haven't watched that one yet. That's pretty recent. I haven't seen that one just yet. Maybe I'll try it. Princess Bride? We already had Princess Bride in Fantasy. So yeah, we've kind of already got that. The emphasis. Liz and the Bluebird? I didn't actually watch because I never watched the anime. It was like a continuation to Clanad's, not a movie. Okay, we're moving on. I think we'll leave it there. I'm gonna do like the honorable mentions for things that I had no idea where to place. So I'm just gonna throw these out and then we're gonna end. I don't know how many there are. That'll do. That'll do. I'm just gonna boop, boop, boop. Nope, that one stays up. Everything else goes away. Oh shit, not that. That stays up too. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw these at the wall and then we're gonna end the stream for the day. Because I've got some things to do. Okay. Finally, I know. Koizora? Koizora, yeah, you know what? I'll add that to top romances. It's a very silly romance. It's literally such just pure drama, but I loved it. Koizora was really good. It makes you cry your eyes out. It's about the main character is played by Miyoto Haruma. He has bright blonde hair. A high school girl loses her phone and has it returned to her, but somebody has erased all her contacts except for him and starts sending her cute text messages while they're on summer break. She falls in love with him, goes back to school, finds out it's this blonde-haired kid who seems scary, and a romance builds, and then just pure pain and suffering. Okay. Some of these I've stolen into other things while we've gone. But I'm just going to copy-paste these because this is a big list. And you guys, like, boom. Tell me anything. Memento, we definitely talked about. The Departed, incredible movie, police movie. All about where one character whose father was a cop, is raised essentially by a mob boss. And so while he becomes a cop and everybody trusts him because his family were cops, he essentially is actually working for the mob, while at the same time a kid whose father was part of the mob decides to be a cop and really wants to be a cop, but nobody trusts him because his father was a bad guy. Ends up having to work undercover and everybody hates him, and it's a great movie. It's a great like back and forth cat and mouse game of these two characters, one that everybody trusts even though he's a bad guy, one that everybody doesn't trust even though he's a good guy, trying to like catch the other one out and expose them and get them killed or arrested. It's really good. And it has amazing music by Flog and Molly, an Irish band, which is just really good Irish rock. Old Boy, I think probably everybody knows Old Boy. It's amazing. It's a South Korean movie where a dude just like is going home one day drunk. He gets knocked out. He wakes up in a room with no windows, no way to escape. He's just locked in a room. They slide in a bit of food for him every day for him to eat. And that's it. That's his life for, I think, 15 years. He's locked in this single room. They give him like a TV and food every day and water and everything. Every now and then they put him to sleep with sleeping gas, and like they'll cut his hair and take care of him and make sure he stays alive. But yeah, he's just in prison for 15 years. Nobody ever tells him why it happened. Nobody ever tells him what is going on. And yeah, he just stays there for 15 years, eventually gets put to sleep again and wakes up in the real world in a briefcase with a shit ton of money. And just has to find out why the fuck somebody hated him so much to lock him in a prison for 15 years with no explanation. What's happened to his family? He gets back out and he immediately finds out that everybody thinks he killed his wife and his child. And oh man, shit goes real wild. From there on, I can't spoil anything, but the revelations that come out are just incredible. Swiss Army Man. I know that Vox Archiva has talked about this one at great length, so I'll just say this is one of his top 10 films of all time. Basically, a dude is about to hang himself, but finds a dead body washed up on the shore, and he decides to not end his life just yet because he found this dead body, and he's like, I want to bring this person back to society. I want them to be found. They might not have wanted to kill themselves. They might want to be found. So he starts carrying him back to society. It's like his reason to live. And then he finds out that this dead body can do all kinds of wild things. Like he manages to use it as a raft at one point because the gases escaping its body shoot itself forward. The dead body's played by Daniel Radcliffe, by the way, which is even funnier. Harry Potter. But then, yeah, he finds out this dead body can do all kinds of things. It starts to wake up and talk to him and tell him about his life, and it gets really deep while also being really body horror filled and disgusting, and it's great. It's great. It's great. I won't say much else. Just watch a trailer, and yeah, if it doesn't weird you out so much that you want to watch it, give it a watch. It's a great watch. Dead Poet Society, what more can I say? Dead Poet Society is absolutely beautiful. I have 2 Robin Williams ones in a row because I was just like, as soon as I thought of Dead Poet Society and the whole, oh, Captain, my Captain. God, he was such a fucking good actor. He was such a good fucking comedian. That film's great. It's all just about inspiring young people to do things that aren't necessarily just about what they feel like they should do, but embrace the arts and poetry and writing and all of that kind of things. And What Dreams May Come is also Robin Williams. And in this case, this is a really good one that I don't feel many people actually talk about too much. In this one, Robin Williams has died at the beginning of the movie. And the whole movie is him exploring the afterlife. Like he's taken to essentially a paradise situation where he is essentially in heaven, but he finds out that not everyone that he loved in the human world is there with him. And so he goes on a journey to try and find them. And it's really beautiful. He goes through like layers of heaven and other people's paradises. And it's done really well. Like for the time, the special effects and everything to create heaven and create the different special effects that are kind of like angelic were really beautiful. I think if they did it again today, this is one of those rare ones where it's like, I don't think they'd be able to make it as good because we don't have Robin Williams anymore. I'm not sure any actor could ever live up to that performance. But at the same time, I feel like if they did it today, they could make the visual effects way better, and it may be better as a movie in that regard. It's just, yeah. Oh man, Robin Williams sold that. That was a beautiful film. It was great. I don't feel at home in this world anymore. Really good, like sad, dramatic movie where a girl who's already having a bit of problem with life comes home to find her house has been robbed. She's pissed off about it. She goes out to find revenge. It turns into a very dark, like murder-filled romp. Yeah, she's joined by like Elijah Wood, and she just tries to get revenge on the people who robbed her. It goes in a pretty wild direction from there. It's deep. It's deep. I've told you guys, I don't particularly like the Constantine movie. I love the Constantine character. I love Keanu Reeves. I know a lot of people love that movie. I am not a fan of the Constantine live action movie. It's probably just because I like the comic character too much. I even like the animated one a bit more, but I know you guys love it. I'm going to add Truman Show because someone just said that. Truman Show is a masterpiece. Honestly. Chronicle. What do I have to say? It's about a bunch of teenagers that get like anime superpowers. They can fly in the air. They can use telekinesis. Their bodies can't be hurt because they can create force fields around themselves. And then they do Dragon Ball shit. They fly up into the sky and play football in the sky. They race airplanes. And of course, one of them gets a bit power hungry and tries to kill people. It's great. Chronicle was the Dragon Ball live action we never got. No, the anime live action we never got, where they just made it as an original story. It was freaking incredible. They should have done more with it. Really good. Really good. Why can they not just do an anime adaptation that does shit like that? That actually like takes the superpowers and just has fun with them. Man. Perfect Blue. I don't need to say anything. We've talked about Satoshi Kon films before. Perfect Blue is a masterpiece and will always be a masterpiece. Watch it. Not if you're under the age of 18 or if you're squeamish. It's very dark. It's very, very dark. I Saw the Devil, another Korean movie. I saw this listed, like a lot of people were talking about this when I was talking about horrors as well. And this is another one where I can't really consider it a horror. It's more like a drama. But I Saw the Devil is one in which I think he was a police officer. His girlfriend is murdered by a serial killer. And the fun thing is, they give you away who the serial killer is immediately. They show you who the serial killer is. And they have this, like, I think he's like a special police officer, like he's a way up there kind of one who's been like well trained. But the police officer finds out who the serial killer is immediately as well. Like he tracks him down, figures out who it is, sees that he's still like traveling the country looking for his next victim. And instead of arresting him and bringing him in, the police officer decides that he's got to be the worst person that this bad guy, this serial killer has ever found. So he finds the serial killer, beats him half to death, digs a hole, puts him in it, and decides, no, I'm going to let you live. Walks away, lets him crawl out of the hole, continues to follow him for the rest of the film, just essentially torturing him so badly that he wants to make him wish he was dead. It's fucking incredible. It's called I Saw the Devil because it's the general idea that this serial killer is such an evil person, but at the same time, this police officer who's had his wife be killed is like, you know what? Nah. I'm going to show you true evil. It's so fucking good. It's so good. The fights in it are good. The torture scenes are really intense. Oh, man. Not for the faint of heart, because again, immediately starts with a serial killer murdering someone. Goes on from there with lots of murder and other serial killers running into each other. It's so good. It's so fucking good. Anyway. Paprika, again, Satoshi Kon, incredible. Watch it. Parasite, we talked about it earlier. Incredible direction. Great look at society, classism. Really amazing. Watch it. Big Fish. Big Fish, I guess I should have put in romance, but it was like a fantasy romance mashup where it's more the drama. It's just about an old man who apparently had a really fantastical life involving like giants and time freezing and flying across the country and all kinds of weirdness. He's telling his story to his child and his child's wife, and how fantastical it is. His child has given up on believing him and in believing his stories anymore, even though the father always tells them continuously like they're true. It's really sweet romantic story that also has like a lot of drama and like family tension in the son not believing his father and all of that. It's really good. The Prestige. That's Christopher Nolan, isn't it? Shit, there you go. I got you a Nolan movie in here with my free violation. This is actually one of my favorite movies of all time, but again, what is it? Probably a drama, probably a mystery or a thriller. The Prestige, honestly, one of the best films of all time. It involves like two magicians competing with one another, constantly like trying to betray one another, showing up at each other's magic tricks and fucking them up for each other. It's great. It's great. They just continuously have this rivalry that makes them both want to one-up each other and learn better tricks, but at the same time, they're constantly hurting each other, doing damage to each other. It's fantastic. It goes to like a sci-fi level at one point because the magic is so good. I loved it. It has a great revelation at the end. Legend, 1985. I also wanted to add, what's the Lady Hawk? Lady Hawk. Oh, is it just called Lady Hawk the movie? It is. Oh, shit. Little did I know. So these are like two of my like favorite old fantasies. They were both from 1985. And Legend stars Tom Cruise. They have a giant red monster that looks like the devil. It's just a very generic classic fantasy hero must save the princess kind of story. I'm also gonna we already had Never Ending Story in action, I think, or in fantasy. And Lady Hawk is one about a woman who turns into a hawk during the day and a man who turns into a wolf in the night, and they were in love with each other, and this curse was put upon them so that, yeah, They can never meet because one of them's always an animal during the day or during the night. They can never be with each other. Good fantasy movies. I loved it when we used to get like a lot of high fantasy. We don't really get that anymore for whatever reason. Nowadays, it turns out it to be in like TV series rather than actual films. It's sad. Hannibal? I will add, not Hannibal, but I will add, fuck. What's the original called? Oh my God. The original Hannibal Lecter film. Silence of the Lambs. Thank you. Oh my God. That is a masterpiece. Hannibal, not so much. Hannibal is a TV series for one thing. But yeah, Silence of the Lambs is a masterpiece. Brilliantly acted. Oh my God. Some of the lines in that film are so fucking good and so well acted. Just the whole like, I would eat his cheeks with a nice picante. Hello, Clarice. Oh my God. It's so well done. It's so uncomfortable. It's fucking incredible. But yeah, I'll add Silence of the Lambs. Let's go. Where were we up to? Fantasy ones. Atonement, like I said, I ended up adding that to romance so we can get that the fuck out of there. The Road, based off of another novel that I really like, really dark movie. Man and his son traveling the road in a post-apocalyptic world where everybody wants to eat them or do worse things to them and then eat them. It's a really fucked up like Mad Max kind of scenario where everybody's out for themselves. They've turned cannibal, they've turned horrible, horrible people. And a man's just trying to keep his boy alive into adulthood. It's really fucked up. One Cut of the Dead, absolutely fantastic film. It's a Japanese film in which the general premise, if you watch the first 30 minutes of it, you're gonna fucking hate it. You're gonna fucking hate it. The first 30 minutes of the film play out like a really bad film. And then you find out that the really bad film was a film. That's all I'll say, is that literally, when you watch the movie, you realize that it's called One Cut of the Dead because it's literally a film made with one single cut. They don't cut away. So you know that the reason that like everybody likes Birdman or fuck, what is the Birdman subtitle? Because Birdman isn't in my list because I kind of like Birdman, but it was kind of too slow for me. Like I get that it's directed really well, it's acted really well. The fact that they managed to like avoid cuts as much as possible, it's really deep. But yeah, Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. Yes. It's got that kind of feel where like all of the cuts are like really long. They like had to act everything all in one go. The long ass subtitle, I know. I was not really a fan of Birdman, but I can see why the direction, the acting and everything, like the cinematography is a masterpiece. And yes, I kind of like the whole like what is reality, what is fake thing. It's just, it's not in like my top films ever. One Cut of the Dead, on the other hand, fucking hilarious take on that. And the fact that also the movie ends with like all the making of and you see exactly how they did everything. Oh, it's so good. I love that shit. It's so good. Dunkirk did that too. You're right. Dunkirk I didn't have as much fun with. Just wasn't it for me. Just wasn't it. The World of Kaneko. I think that's another one. I talked about that earlier, right? It's another one made by the same person who made Memories of Matsuko. Tetsuya Nakashima. Yeah, The World of Kaneko. The World of Kaneko, a dude's daughter goes missing. His ex-wife comes and beats the crap out of him essentially and tells him, go find our daughter. He's a piece of shit scumbag. He is a terrible person as it is. But yeah, he decides to go look for his daughter anyway and be a good father for once. And he finds out that she's been mixed up in like, oh God, everything you can think of. Drugs, prostitution, murder, kidnapping, all kinds of things. If you name it, Kaneko's probably done it, and she's still only a 17-year-old girl, and she was controlling this shit. It's a very dark dive into a fucked up version of reality. It's another one of those ones like Memories of Matsuko where you're like, how did they film this? How is this real, right? I fucking love the ride. Look up a trailer, but just know that it's full of a lot of dark shit. Why Don't You Play in Hell? Similar thing. This is another one done by Sion Sono, one of my favorite directors. In this one, I can't really explain the storyline of it too much. There's a group of teenagers trying to make as realistic and dramatic a film as they can. There's a group of Yakuza that are trying to recover their place as like a strong family. There's a little girl who originally, like when she was a child, did a commercial for like brushing and whitening your teeth. And the Yakuza, who ended up killing a bunch of people, found her in a pile of blood doing that dance and doing that song and fell in love with her and raised her. It's really weird. It's really fucking weird. I can't really explain it other than the fact that it feels like a fever dream. It's directed incredibly well. You remember how I was talking about the fact that Sion Sono made a lot of films that were like exploitive and actually like did use the women as eye candy, as that kind of film? Yeah, this is one of those films. This is one of those films. Devil's Advocate, amazing movie. Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, incredible in it. Keanu Reeves is essentially a lawyer who gets hired to join a big firm, and things start essentially haunting him and his wife, and he feels like he's basically selling his soul by being a lawyer for a bunch of bad guys who maybe he shouldn't be letting out into the world. And then it gets very supernatural and very deep, and that's all I'll say about that. Forrest Gump. If you don't know Forrest Gump, just Google it. Just Google it and watch it. I feel like this is one of those movies that everybody's seen. If you haven't seen it, you need to fix that. It's amazing. It's amazing. Silent Voice. I put that into romance. Let's go. Parasite. Did I put that twice? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Let me just get that out of there. You know what I'll also add from the same person? What's the train one by that Korean director? Bong Joon-ho, right? Bong Joon-ho. Yeah, okay. Snowpiercer. I'll add that one too. No, not Train to Busan. Train to Busan's an alright movie. I didn't like it that much. People talk about Train to Busan like it's something incredible. To me, it's just a pretty okay zombie film. I had fun with it. It was zombies getting full of action. Wasn't that particularly interesting to me. Snowpiercer, on the other hand, very interesting. It's set on a train in a post-apocalyptic world, which has already entered like a nuclear winter kind of thing. So if you leave the train, you're basically going to die of hypothermia. So they're all trapped in this train, and there's a great deal of classism where people at the front line of the coach have like lots of food and lots of fancy drinks, and they're taken care of. They have proper beds. And the further you go back down the train, the like lower class everyone gets, to the point where right at the back, everyone is just given like protein cubes that are basically made out of human waste and excrement, and they're barely kept alive and yet forced to work to keep the train moving. And yeah, they have to, a bunch of people from the back of the train, including Chris Evans, Captain America, decide to start moving forward through the train and find a better lot in life by essentially doing like a revolution on the train. It's a very interesting storyline. It's very good. Has some good fights. Has a lot to say again about society. Yeah, just like Parasite, man went in. And it's really good. Truman Show, brilliant movie. I think everybody knows what Truman Show is, so there's not really any way to spoil it. I think even if you watch like a trailer, you spoil it through the trailer. But basically it's Jim Carrey. All I will say is you start the thing with him being like super happy and way too over the top. He's like, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Everybody loves him. And then he starts to realize that life doesn't feel quite like reality. He starts to feel like something isn't quite right, and maybe people are just humoring him and there's something wrong going on. That's all I'll say about that. It's a brilliant movie. It gives away its storyline a bit too much, and I'm deciding not to give away the storyline, even though if you look for a trailer, I'm pretty sure they'll spoil the quote-unquote twist, which you see pretty immediately. And finally, Silence of the Lambs, which people made me add, I agree, is an absolute masterpiece. I like Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter's a creepy character. And Hannibal Lecter gave us such a good serial killer bad guy that people have been trying to recreate that kind of feeling ever since and haven't been quite able to do it. But yeah, really good. Jim Carrey, yes. Jim Carrey, good. Jim Carrey, great actor. I really like that TV show. I think they just cancelled it as well. I forget what it's called, but like Jim Carrey is basically Jim Henson in it. Like he runs a show for children, plays with a bunch of, I think his name is Mr. Pickles in it. He runs a children's show where he like uses a bunch of puppets and stuff. And he basically, life isn't good for him anymore. And he starts trying to make the show more adult because he's having essentially a mental breakdown. It's really good. It's really good. Anyway, with that said, I am way out of time. I'm sorry, guys. This was supposed to be like a 2-hour stream. I am gonna have to leave. Thank you all for joining me. I'm gonna head out. Let's see if I can help you guys raid anyone and enjoy your time with anybody else today. Thank you for being here with me. I got to talk about movies. And next time I will give myself more time to do this. And I'll probably like finish all of my things before I open up the Tatsumachi. But it's fine. It was nice talking to Taka for a good long time. Nina's trying. Why does this say first time Minecraft? And Nina's played Minecraft. Okay. Okay, first time Minecraft. We're going to send you to Nina's first time Minecraft. And tomorrow, we're going to be playing FF14 with Millie at 10 a.m. So we'll be back to doing Final Fantasy. So that'll be a good time. I hope you guys will join us for that. Thank you so much for joining me for this stream. At the end of that one, I will do all of our super chats and other things. Because, yeah, I'm sorry I've run out of time. But I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Do not be led astray, my confidants. And I will catch you guys next time. And while I am out of time, I do have to let this outro play anyway. So I'm just going to say, honestly, thank you guys so much for joining me. I had so much fun. I love doing these types of streams where I can just Zatsudan and just talk about things for a while. And I liked that this time I actually had like a list of things to talk about at the beginning that I could talk about at length. I can't believe our top 10 movies took a full hour. That was freaking wild. That was really my downfall. I thought that would take like 20 minutes. That's on me. But thank you so much for joining me and making this a fun experience for everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you guys next time. Enjoy Nina's Minecraft.